Good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome everyone to this afternoon's meeting of the Senate Committee on Legislative Operations. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Daley, Senator Cannizzaro, Senator Krasner, Senator Steinbeck, Chair Orenshaw.
Present. We do have a quorum. Please mark Majority Leader Cannizzaro and Senator Krasner present when they arrive. A few housekeeping measures. I just want to remind everyone to please silence their electronic devices. If you do wish to testify on one of the bills we'll be hearing, please sign in at the table by the door. Please provide a business card, if you have one, to our committee secretary. For those joining us on the internet, please be sure to mute your microphone when you're not speaking to minimize any background noise. While you are testifying, please turn on the microphone, clearly state your name for the record and your affiliation with any groups, if you have such affiliation. Then please turn the microphone off each time you're done speaking. If you're going to give any handouts, we ask for 20 paper copies for members of the public. Electronic copies should have been submitted in PDF form to our committee manager 24 hours in advance of this committee meeting. Often in our committee, we will talk about issues that can sometimes, excite passions and a lot of disagreement, but we do expect courtesy and respect in our interactions during the meeting, even if you don't agree with someone else's position. Committee members will be using their laptops to view handouts and other documents on the LCB Nellis system. Please do not view this as a sign of disrespect or inattention. As a reminder, we may take agenda items out of order. At the end of the hearing, we will take public comment. That's limited to 2 minutes per person. So I'd like to now open the hearing on Assembly Bill 491. I see we've got Speaker Yeager here. Thank you for joining us, Speaker Yeager. We appreciate you being here to present the bills.
Thank you so much, Chair Orenshaw, Vice Chair Daley, members of the Senate Legislative Operations and Elections Committee. For the record, I am Steve Yeager. I represent Assembly District 9 in Southwest Las Vegas, and I am pleased to present Assembly Bill 491 in its first reprint to you this afternoon. Chair, I'll also let you know there is a conceptual amendment that is relatively brief. You should have a copy of that on Nellis. This bill revises provisions relating to elections, specifically regarding data requests by the Secretary of State, qualifications for elected public offices, and declarations of candidacy, eligibility, and residency. I have a couple familiar faces with me at the table down in Las Vegas, and that is Mr. DiChiara and Bradley Schrager. So after I'm done, Chair, they'll have some remarks to add, and then we'll be happy to answer questions. So just by way of background, this bill really is more of a cleanup bill than anything, making common sense, technical changes to elections laws that will improve communication and the flow of information, ensuring greater transparency. Chair, I'll go ahead and take you through the sections of the bill. It is a rather long bill, but a lot of the language just repeats itself over and over and over again. Section 1, as proposed to be changed by the conceptual amendment, requires city and county clerks to respond to a request by the Secretary of State for any data or information relating to the current election within 2 working days of receiving the request. The clerk must respond with either the information or data requested or a written explanation as to when the data or information can reasonably be provided. And the impetus here is just that the Secretary of State sometimes needs information to be able to convey that to the public about what is happening. So having a clear time frame in statute, I think, would be ideal. And then, Chair, sections 2 and 7 through 77, so the bulk of the bill, revises the qualifications for elected public offices other than federal offices to require the officers to be registered to vote in the state, district, county, township, or other area prescribed by law where they must reside, and if elected, over which they will have jurisdiction or represent. This means candidates for these public offices must be registered to vote in the appropriate jurisdiction where they are running. For statewide offices like the governor, attorney general, secretary of state, AB 491 would just require them to be registered to vote in the state of Nevada. Legislators and candidates of state legislative offices would be required to be registered to vote in the legislative district they are running to represent. Similarly, officers or candidates of county level, city level, and township level public offices would be required to register to vote in the appropriate county, city, or township. Chair, I did not know this until I started looking at this bill, but right now there is no requirement that you actually be registered to vote in the district that you represent. You have to live there. The residency requirements are already in place, but I think it's a lot of good public policy reasons why we'd want you to actually be registered to vote there if you're going to run to represent that area. So that's simply what sections 2 and 7 through 77 do. Section 78 clarifies that these revised qualifications do not apply to any person who holds public office on October 1, 2025. Instead, the new qualifications would apply to anyone who files a declaration of candidacy after that date. Obviously, we would hope that if folks are not registered to vote, in the districts they're representing, they would just go ahead and register to vote, but that would not be a legal requirement due to ex post facto and the ex post facto doctrine. And then for the rest of the bill, Chair, sections 3, 6, and 13 require those filing a declaration of candidacy or declaration of eligibility after the effective date to attest under penalty of perjury to the city or town and the county in Nevada where they're registered to vote. So that would be added to the forms that we have to fill out when we go file declarations of candidacy. And then sections 3, 4, 6, and 13 provide that declarations of candidacy, residency, and eligibility are public records and must be made available by the filing officer to the public in electronic format. So, Chair Orenshaw, members of the committee, that concludes my presentation on Assembly Bill 491. I want to thank you for your time and consideration of this important legislation. And with your permission, Chair, I would love to pass the baton down to our co-presenters in Las Vegas.
Yes, thank you very much, Speaker. Whoever would like to begin down in Las Vegas, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Chair Orenshaw, members of the committee, Gabriel DeCara for the record, Chief Deputy Secretary of State. I want to say that we are grateful to Speaker Yeager for bringing this bill. Data transparency is incredibly important to Secretary Aguilar. We have some similar provisions in our own bill, and we see this bill as complementary. It's incredibly important that we can provide the public information that they need about our elections as they happen, and this bill helps with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chief Deputy Secretary of State DeCara. Appreciate your testimony on the bill. Mr. Schrager, thank you for joining us. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Bradley Schrager for the record. And thank you to the Speaker for bringing this bill forward. I will add very little other than to say regarding the requirement to be registered in the district which you seek to represent. Not only is it good policy, for many years, obviously, the filing officers are the county clerks and the registrars, and they have very little means of verifying any aspect of your declaration of candidacy on site. In this instance, it will also provide the ability for the registrars who maintain the records of your voter registration to do an immediate check as to your eligibility. So that's another positive regarding, we all know there have been residency challenges over the years. This is meant to be an immediate check upon the eligibility of candidates, and the public records and the penalty of perjury sort of flow from that as well. So I think these are very good policies.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schrager. Members, any questions for our presenters? No. I guess I just have one question, and maybe it's for Chief Deputy Secretary of State DeCara. In the proposed conceptual amendment, the very first amendment amends Section 1 of the bill to clarify that the Secretary of State's request for information must be for the current election. I just wondered, what's the impetus behind having it just for that current election versus past elections? I just wondered if you could comment on that.
Thank you for the question, Chair Orenshaw. Gabriel DeCara for the record. We understand that the clerks, when they're running an election, they have a lot going on. This legislation would create the requirement for them to respond to the request of the Secretary of State, which we believe is important. However, we want to make sure, and if we're establishing that ability in statute, we want to make sure that it can't be abused. So, for example, if a clerk is in the middle of, canvassing the vote for the 2024 election, a lot of questions about what happened in 1986 would not necessarily be the most timely. So if we are placing this requirement on the clerks, it is helpful to narrow the scope of what can be requested. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Deputy Secretary of State. Appreciate that. Not seeing any other questions. We now open it up for support on Assembly Bill 491. Whoever would like to speak in support, either here in Carson City or down in Las Vegas, Please come forward. Good afternoon, Mr. Secretary. Thank you for joining us. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Cisco Aguilar, Secretary of State. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, thank you for having this hearing today. Just here in support of the bill, I think it really helps us build efficiencies into our elections process and builds transparency for the public. So thank you and congratulations, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone else come forward in Carson City or in Las Vegas. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines in support of Assembly Bill 491?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support of Assembly Bill 491, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hi, Catherine Ivanov, IVAN, Frank. I'm in support of this bill. It makes sense that if you want to be running for public office, at least what you should do is vote. But on the other hand, those people probably do vote, but not registering to vote in the area they're running for. That doesn't make sense either. So I'm in support of the bill. Thank you for letting me talk. Have a lovely day.
Chair, there are no other callers in support at this time.
Thank you very much, Broadcasting. I'd like to now go to opposition. Anyone who's opposed on Assembly Bill 491 here in Carson City or down in Las Vegas? Good afternoon. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Chair Orenshaw and committee. My name is Joshua Skaggs, and I am the Legislative Affairs Director for the Nevada Republican Party, here today in opposition to just one section of AB 491. We testified on the Assembly side that we support the rest of the provisions in this bill. Like Speaker Yeager, we were surprised to learn that it wasn't a requirement in current law for candidates to be registered to vote in their districts. Section 1 of AB 491 mandates, with some exception, a county or city clerk must either respond to a request from the Secretary of State for election-related information or data not later than the end of the second calendar day after receiving a request, or provide a written explanation if they are unable to fulfill the request. Elections in Nevada are very complex. Clerks must deal with early voting, universal mail-in ballots, expansion of electronic voting, and many other mandates placed on clerks by the legislature and Secretary of State. We appreciate Amendment 383 that clarified the time frame from 48 hours to 2 calendar days for a response, but note that calendar days do not take into account weekends or holidays. At a minimum, changing this to business days would be better. We also believe that our county clerks are conscientious and do a good job at responding to requests, whether from their constituents or the Secretary of State, and we question the need for this bill. There are several bills in this legislature that seek to give the state stronger control over locally elected clerks. We generally oppose any such attempts and ask that you reevaluate Section 1 of AB 491. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Good afternoon, Ms. Hanson. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Janine Hanson. I'm the state chairman of the Independent American Party. I would concur with the testimony that it has already been given, and it seems to me that one bill after another seeks to transfer more power to the Secretary of State. We want to give credence to our local county clerks, recognizing that they are directly elected by their own counties. There is access in those counties to them. And I suspect that there's never been a time when they've been requested to have information to the Secretary of State that they didn't do it. I'm wondering if when they asked the Secretary of State for information, if the Secretary was as willing to come forward to them in 2 days. So I don't really feel that this is an important bill. That portion of it. We don't oppose the rest of it. We just have some concerns about the time frame and the transfer, again, of more power to the Secretary of State. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Good afternoon. Mr. Ojadi, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Cyrus, Hojjaty. I will ditto Janine Hansen, everything she's pointed out. Thank you so much, and great to testify with her at the same time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I'm not seeing anyone else come forward in opposition in either of the hearing rooms. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines in opposition to the measure who wishes to be heard?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition to AB 491, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
My apologies, Katrin Ivanov. I would like to change mine to opposition because I do like that part for being voting, but I would what the MVGOP rep and Janine Hansen mentioned. So can you please change my vote to opposition? IVANO Frank. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Ivanov, for
Chair,
your testimony. And we are in opposition.
I apologize for interrupting, Chair. We have no other callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you, Broadcasting. Is there anyone in Carson City or in Las Vegas who wishes to speak in the neutral position?
Chair Orenshaw, members of the committee, Ashley Kennedy representing Clark County. Thank you. It's actually my first time testifying in this room, so I was very confused by the microphone situation. We just wanted to come up in neutral and thank the speaker on the conceptual amendment that was presented today in clarification in section 1. So just wanted to thank him for his ongoing work and for that clarification. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Cadence Matijevich, Cadencematijevich, representing Washoe County. Similar to other bills that you've heard in committee, Washoe County doesn't have a position on the policy of the bill, but we often do come forward to speak about the ability of our registrar of voters to implement the legislation, consistent with the intent. And we want to express our gratitude to Speaker Yeager and the other proponents of the bill for the amendments that were made that you see in the first reprint, and also the conceptual amendments brought forth today that will allow our registrar to implement consistent without undue hardship on our operations. So thank you.
Thanks very much for your testimony, Ms. Matijevich. I'm not seeing anyone else in the hearing rooms come forward. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines neutral on Assembly Bill 491?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in neutral to Assembly Bill 491, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you very much. Speaker, any closing comments you'd like to make? All right, well, thank you. We will now close the hearing on Assembly Bill 491, and we will open the hearing on Assembly Bill 496. And thank you for being here to present this bill as well, Speaker.
Thank you, Chair Orenshaw. Thank you, Chair Orenshaw, Vice Chair Daley, members of the Senate Legislative Operations and Elections Committee. For the record, I am Steve Yeager. I represent Assembly District 9, which is in Southwest Las Vegas, and I'm pleased to present Assembly Bill 496 in its first reprint to you this afternoon. There is also an amendment that has been provided via Nellis for your consideration. This is an elections bill relating to data reporting on mail and provisional ballots, posting voter registration lists online, and requiring certain information useful to the signature curing process to be included on mail ballot return envelopes. With me at the table down in Las Vegas, you'll see two familiar faces from the Secretary of State's office and Mr. Schrager as well. And just like the last bill, Chair, they'll add a little bit of color after I'm done speaking, and then we'll have a chance to answer questions. So just by way of background, this bill makes what I believe are important changes to our elections laws that will ensure greater transparency in that everybody will receive information sooner and on a daily basis relative to outstanding ballots, which will help ensure that everybody is operating on the same information. Many of you probably recall from the last election that there was a lot of speculation and misinformation about how many ballots remained to be counted. There would be posts on social media with handwritten numbers, and everybody would wonder if they were the actual numbers relating to how many ballots still remain to be processed. This bill, I believe, will prevent that from happening. In addition, this bill will make it easier for elections officials to contact voters who need to verify their signatures, resulting in more votes being counted rather than rejected. So, Chair, I'll take you through the sections of the bill. Sections 2 and 8 require county and city clerks to post data on mail ballots and provisional ballots to their website every 24 hours during an election, from the start of early voting to the final canvass of election results. The Secretary of State will then compile that information and post the aggregate information from all the different counties on their website. Specifically, starting the day after early voting begins and ending the day after the canvass of the results, clerks must report each day the total number of mail ballots that have been returned to a drop box, returned by mail, the number of mail ballots that require curing of a signature defect, and the number that have been successfully cured. Additionally, during the same period, clerks must report each day the total number of provisional ballots cast. Sections 2 and 8 also require clerks to report additional information each day, starting the day after Election Day and ending the day after the canvass of the results. During this period, clerks must report the number of counted mail ballots that have not yet been tabulated and the number of cast provisional ballots. The original language of these two sections required county and city clerks to post such information online by 10 a.m. each day. That was the first version of the bill. The Assembly amendment changed this deadline to 5 p.m., but at the request of the clerks and after further discussions, we are now proposing to change that to 11 a.m. In addition, these sections of the bill would require the Secretary of State to report an estimate of the number of mail ballots that are in the custody of the United States Postal Service by 11 a.m. each day. Originally, the bill contemplated the clerks would do that. We thought it made more sense to have the Secretary of State report that, and it would be an estimate of the number of ballots because it can be difficult to figure out exactly to the number how many ballots are in the custody of the United States Postal Service, and I think the Secretary of State would be able to provide more information about that if the committee is interested. Sections 5 and 7 of the bill clarify that access to information concerning an individual provisional ballot will remain restricted to the person who actually cast the ballot. However, the clerks and the Secretary of State may post aggregate data about provisional ballots as required by Assembly Bill 496 so that the public and candidates would know how many provisional ballots are still outstanding. Section 3 of the bill requires county clerks to post online an alphabetical list of all registered voters in the county on the first business day of each month. These lists must be made available for download free of charge. Section 6 makes a conforming change to require county clerks to include the identification numbers of registered voters on the alphabetical list of registered voters, similar to how these identification numbers are included on other lists of registered voters made available for public inspection. And then finally, sections 4 and 9 require mail ballot return envelopes to additionally include a space for the voter to write his or her telephone number for the purpose of contacting the voter if necessary for signature curing or verification. I know probably all of you up there have done signature curing. It's a very labor-intensive process, and we don't always have the most up-to-date information, so often you are going to that voter's home and hoping to find that voter present and willing to answer their door when you knock on the door. By allowing them to write a good telephone number, I really think this will speed up the process, and it will allow the county clerks to actually make that phone call to be able to let the voter know that their signature needs verification to be processed. So hopefully that's going to result in more votes being counted and less attempts of having to knock on somebody's door several times over to get a response. So Chair Orenshaw, members of the committee, that concludes my portion of the presentation on Assembly Bill 496 in its first reprint. I want to thank you for your time and consideration of this important legislation, and I would now like to hand it down to my friends who are in Las Vegas.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Down in Southern Nevada, whoever would like to begin, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Chair Orenshaw, members of the committee. Gabriel DeCara for the record, Chief Deputy Secretary of State. I'd like to thank Speaker Yeager for bringing this bill. This kind of data transparency continues the evolution of Nevada's election system, which started recently in 2021 session with the passage of the top-down election legislation, which Secretary Aguilar in our office successfully continued with the beginning of the VREMS project and the completion of phase one, which saw our elections in 2024, the general election run on this new system. I would be remiss if I did not add that the one-shot funding bill to continue funding that project, to continue to improve the way our election system functions, was introduced in Senate Finance today. Secretary Aguilar's goals are modernization, transparency, and efficiency. We strongly believe that this bill helps the Elections Division with each of those things. More information provided to the voters, more information provided to the counties, the public in general, is all of benefit. So I would thank you, Speaker Yeager, for bringing the bill.
Thank you very much, Chief Deputy Secretary of State. Mr. Schrager, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the members of the committee, and thank you to the speaker as well. And I will focus on just 2 quick points, which is I cannot overstate the importance of improved and more centralized data reporting. This is about the mitigation of confusion and anxiety regarding the election processes and the conforming of reports of ballot statuses across the state so that we can achieve a coherent, up-to-date snapshot every single day. This will, we understand people want results, they want information, they want to know what's going on. We hope that this will provide the information to the press and to voters so that people have a better notion of what ballots are out there, what's happened to them, what's coming, so that there are fewer sort of surprises in the process as it unfolds. And then I will also say that the section regarding the inclusion of the phone number is an accommodation. There's nothing in law that says if you don't put your phone number on there that there will be any repercussions. It won't invalidate your ballot. It is merely an accommodation to make it easier to contact you if you feel that would help you in the cure process. So with that, I would urge adoption of AB 496.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Thanks to all the co-presenters. Members, any questions? Vice Chair Daley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real quick, I just wanted to make sure I was reading it right. So in the original bill, and I think it's still there in section 2, sub 2, where it talks about the total number of mail, no, that's not it. Total number of mail ballots for that city that have been returned by the United States Postal Service or other delivery service. So those are bills that they tried to deliver, was the wrong address, whatever, and the Postal Service returned them to the registrar of the city.
Steve Yeager,
Chairman,
please go ahead, Mr. Schrager.
I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker. I don't mean to interrupt. I can clarify pretty quickly, I think. Thank you, Senator Daley. It's Bradley Schrager again for the record. Those are ballots, yes, that had been sent out but returned to the post office as undeliverable.
Understood, and that's what I was just trying to clarify. And then in one of the parts in the amendment where it says that they have to post an estimate of the mail ballots for each county that are in the custody of the United States Postal Service. So I'm not following that one as clearly. How are they going to know if they've been delivered and not returned? Who has custody of them? I'm just looking for some clarification on what we're trying to get to there. And I know it's an estimate, so you're going to make your best guess, but what are we trying to hit there?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Senator. Bradley Schrager once again for the record. And thank you for the opportunity to clarify this, because it's a really important point, and I want to make clear that we're talking about two different sort of categories here. One is the ballots that have been sent out but returned as undeliverable. The estimate refers to, and this is perhaps little known, when someone out there, it can be here in Las Vegas, it can be in Washoe, it can be in Massachusetts, it can be in Oregon. When you put your return ballot, your mail ballot into the US mail, it is scanned, and it is knowable that that ballot has been scanned and received by the USPS, that a voter has put it into the mail stream, and it's on its way back to your particular county, whichever county you vote in here. That's what we'll be estimating. Now, it's not always perfect, but it's a way of knowing, okay, how many ballots are out there in the wild that are not either drop box ballots or have been handed to the registrars or have been received by the registrars. It's an estimate, which should be pretty good, regarding how many ballots have been placed into the mail and are on their way back. So that's actually, I think, a really useful data point that we have not so far reported, but it is knowable and would be, I think, very good for people to know.
Gabriel DeCara for the record, Chief Deputy Secretary of State. I just want to add, logistically, as Mr. Schrager said, those ballots are scanned. Small point of clarification, they're scanned if they have an intelligent, an IMB, an intelligent mail barcode applied to them. That is something that the state and the counties work with the mail, the print vendors on. They ensure that those barcodes are printed, that the USPS can read them, and that is what enables that tracking. If you have the USPS's free service that I can't recall the name of the top of my head, they'll let you know what mail will show up in your mailbox tomorrow. It's incredibly convenient. What we want to do is utilize that technology to better, again, serve the data needs of the public here in Nevada. Thank you.
And thank you for that. That's what I just wanted to be clear on. So it's the ones they have in custody that somebody put in the mail back and it has not been delivered to its final destination yet, but we know how many there are. Thank you. That clears it up pretty clean.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions, members? I guess one question I have regarding Section 9 and the space for the voter to put their phone number on. You know, I talk to a lot of voters who don't like to put their phone number on their affidavit of registration or on any election-related paperwork because they don't like the polling calls and the different, robocalls, so they don't want to give their number out. How do you think do you think there would be a way to encourage people to put their number on here, or maybe let them know it won't be shared for, campaign purposes? I just wonder if there's any way to overcome that obstacle, because I just meet a lot of voters who are real hesitant to give out the number because they're so burned out on the robocalls, the robotexts. Whoever would like to address that.
Gabriel DeCara for the record, Chief Deputy Secretary of State. Thank you for the question, Senator Orenshaw. My interpretation of the language of this bill, not to speak for the Speaker or Mr. Schrager, is that phone number would be for the purposes of ballot cure only. I can tell you that it would be a significant amount of work for the counties to manually update phone numbers based on what comes back, or potentially set up some kind of automated process, which would be great someday, would be very difficult in the short term. So my understanding of the bill is that this phone number would be used for ballot cure purposes only and would not translate to that kind of updated registry that a voter may object to. But I am open to any clarifications from the Speaker or Mr. Schrager. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Deputy Secretary of State, and thank you. And certainly, assuming the bill signed into law, maybe there's some way to just let voters know that won't be shared. Not seeing any other questions, I'd like to open it up for support on Assembly Bill 496. Anyone who'd like to speak in support, either here in Carson City or down in Las Vegas? We'll start here in Carson City. Whoever would like to go first, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Hello. Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw and committee members. For the record, my name is Emily Prasad Zamora, and that's spelled PERSAUD-ZAMORA, and I'm the Executive Director of Silver State Voices, here to testify in support of AB 496 on behalf of my organization and also the Let Nevadans Vote Coalition. AB 496 represents a great balance between easing processes for our clerks, increasing election transparency, and maintaining necessary voter privacy protections, from the accountability of daily ballot reporting requirements to ensuring specific ballot information is restricted to just the voter. We commend Speaker Yeager for his commitment to ensuring Nevada's elections remain accessible, accurate, and safe. Additionally, we'd like to thank the Speaker and his team for taking the time to discuss this bill with us, and for the proposed conceptual amendment, which better fits the needs, of our coalition, election administrators, and voters. We urge the committee to support AB 496. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Prasad-Zamora. Good afternoon. Dr. Willett, thanks for joining us. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw and committee members. My name is Jennifer Willett. I'm with All Voting is Local Action Nevada, an organization that advocates for legislative priorities to expand voter access. We thank the Speaker for bringing forward this bill, ditto previous comments, and urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Mr. Secretary, thanks for joining us down in Southern Nevada hearing room. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. You know, there's been a lot of changes to elections over the last few cycles, and it's important that we continue to keep up. Sometimes when we look at elections, it's not continuing to operate as we have been. It's about looking at innovation. It's looking at transparency and modernization. Sometimes we forget that we are here to serve the people. We're here to serve the voters. And what we're trying to do is increase that voter experience for a transparency perspective. So thank you, and I appreciate the Speaker and all of you. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Thanks for your testimony on the bill. I don't see anyone else coming forward in either of the hearing rooms. Broadcasting, do we have anyone in support of Assembly Bill 496 on the phone lines?
If you would like to testify in support of AB 496, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Shelby Swartz, and I'm the Executive Director of Battleborn Progress and the Institute for Progressive Nevada. We are here in support for all of the reasons previously stated by Ms. Prasad-Zamora from Silver State Voices and All Voting is Local. Thank you so much.
If you've recently joined and would like to testify in support of AB 496, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Thank you, Chair. There are no other callers wishing to testify in support at this time.
Thank you very much, Broadcasting. I'd like to now go to opposition. Anyone who's opposed to the measure who would like to be heard, either in Carson City or in Southern Nevada, please come forward. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone come forward in either of the hearing rooms. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines in opposition to Assembly Bill 496 who wants to be heard?
If you'd like to testify in opposition to AB 496, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon. My name is Iris Stone, IRISSTONE. AB 496 imposes very detailed daily reporting on the county and city clerks. Within today's environment, I suspect that much of this work will require manual tracking and supervision. It seems to me that the requirement of the level of detailed reporting is a consequence of the 21 statutes requiring universal mail ballot system in Nevada, where voters must opt out of receiving a mail ballot. This process has been complicated, has lots of steps to manage securely and accurately. If we were to change it to an opt-in system, many of these large reporting requirements would go away. Also, it seems that the financial burden would outweigh the benefit. The fiscal notes estimate from the county clerks would indicate an additional biannual cost of almost $600,000 added to the election. It should also be noted that there are no fiscal notes for the city clerks, who would also be directed to comply to these detailed reporting requirements. Lastly, with Section 9 in the amendment, I doubt that many voters will put their initials and phone numbers on the ballot envelope. This regulation does not instill voters' confidence, that's for sure. I urge you to vote against AB 496. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Ellen Gifford, ELLEN, GIFF as in Frank, ORD as in David. We know that provisional ballots are not counted until after Election Day. Section 2.1 includes provisional ballot counts in the list of required counts to be posted on the day after the first day of early voting. Then in Section 2.2, only the provisional ballots that have been confirmed are counted from the day after Election Day to the day after canvass. This is confusing, even for those who understand the provisional ballot processes. Perhaps there could be a rewrite there. Existing law gives county clerks the option of publishing a listing of registered voters in their county newspapers one time, usually around election time. Mandating the county clerk publish a listing of registered voters on their website on the first day of every month infringes on the county clerk's right by law to provide this information one time. There's no benefit in providing information every month. It is only of interest to voters closer to Election Day. The Secretary of State has a website called NevVoter that already provides access to a statewide voter registration database reflecting the county voter registration information. Access to NevVoter involves creating a web account and completing an official request form. Then qualifications for access must be verified and granted by the Secretary of State. Mandating that the county clerks make this information available for free completely contradicts the access requirements enforced by the NevVoter system. And voters providing their initials and phone number on the outside of a return envelope invites fraud and pranksters. Anyone can write on the outside of anyone's envelope. Hopefully there is another optional solution. Thank you.
Hi, this is Katrin Ivanov, IVANO Frank, and I'm in opposition of this bill for the previously mentioned reason, 0. Thank you and have a lovely day.
There are no other callers wishing to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you very much, Broadcasting. Is there anyone in the neutral position, either in Carson City or down in Southern Nevada, who wishes to come forward and testify? Whoever would like to begin, thanks for joining us. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Hi, Chair Orenshaw and members of the committee. Ashley Kennedy representing Clark County. I first just want to thank the speaker for all of the amendments that were presented today, and to thank him and the bill proponents for their continued work on this. We are at Clark County obviously very supportive of data transparency and bringing some clarification on where we are as we're counting mail ballots. We know it's high stakes, high pressure, and we are definitely supportive of making sure that voters know where we are in the process. I did want to just talk a little bit about the request that we made changing, I know we went back and forth on Section 2 related to the timing in which we needed to report all of the metrics. In talking with the speaker and talking with the other counties, I think we really were thoughtful in trying to understand how this would be implemented during an election cycle, and eventually we landed back at 11 a.m. It's really actually more in line with our operations. By 10 a.m., at least in Clark County, our goal was to have everything prepared for our reports of everything that happened the day before. So this is in line with our operations. We thought it made a little bit more sense. We also appreciated the amendment that provided some flexibility in the event that there is any unforeseen circumstance that we aren't able to meet that deadline. We can at least report what we have with an estimate of when we'll be able to report the rest of the information. I did want to touch on the fiscal impacts simply because it was brought up during the testimony earlier. With the amendments, it's really in line with how we are operating on the election front, and so I really do think the fiscal impact for the counties with the amendments, at least for Clark County, would be pretty minimal and more aligned with our operations. Again, we thank the Speaker for all of his work on this bill and working with us on some of these amendments. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Kennedy. Good afternoon, Ms. Matejevich. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Cadence Matijevich, C-A-D-E-N-C-E-M-A-T-I-J-E-V-I-C-H, representing Washoe County. Ms. Kennedy covered similar points that we have in Washoe County. Again, we are neutral on the bill and very appreciative to the Speaker and the proponents of the amendments that have come forward, including those presented today, that will allow us to implement this consistent with the intention of the legislation, and we too support data transparency. Also, Chair Orenshaw, I recognize this is not a fiscal committee, but because county fiscal notes were raised earlier for Washoe County, this bill would have a de minimis fiscal impact on us and can be accommodated within our existing budgets. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Good afternoon. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Yep, good afternoon. For the record, my name is Vincent Guthrow. Last name is spelled G-U-T-H-R-E-A-U. I'm the executive director of the Nevada Association of Counties, statewide organization that represents all counties. My colleague said it best. I'll just sort of echo what they said and also just put it on the record for us that we are thankful to the sponsor for the consideration, review, and ultimately presentation of the amendments. So thank you for the opportunity to put that on the record. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Guthrow. Good afternoon, Mr. Skaggs. Please state your name. Please go ahead and proceed.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Chair Orenshaw and committee. My name is Joshua Skaggs, and I am the Legislative Affairs Director for the Nevada Republican Party, here today in neutral to AB 496. We were almost in support of this bill, publishing the list that's in Section 3 we think makes good sense, as posting the registrations online rather than publishing them in a newspaper makes good sense and is probably more cost effective. However, the provisions in Section 2, 5, and 7, and 8 are only necessary because of the way we operate elections in this state. Nevada's election results and ballot counting is a national embarrassment. And anybody that goes to any of our casinos can testify to our ability to count cash and chips in a timely manner, but with ballots, we can't seem to do the same thing. If we did not have universal mail ballots, and if we didn't accept ballots for nearly a week after Election Day, then we could provide timely and accurate results as the majority of other states do. Given the situation that we are in with elections, the things in these sections might improve our ability to deliver results, but in the end, we need to recognize that this is our complex and cumbersome system that makes it difficult to impossible to deliver results. Because all these complex features have not increased the voter turnout, turnout is, in fact, lower with universal mail-in ballots than it was before, we should not introduce more mandates and complexity, but rather return to the simpler and more trustworthy election process we had prior to 2020. And thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Good afternoon, Mr. Hojati. Please proceed.
Cyrus Hojati. I will just echo all the neutral testimony. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I'm not seeing anyone else in either of the hearing rooms coming forward for neutral broadcasting. Is there anyone on the phone lines who wishes to be heard in the neutral position?
If you would like to testify in neutral for AB 496, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are no callers wishing to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, any closing comments you'd like to make? Thank you for joining us today.
Steve Yeager for the record. Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. I wanted to take just an opportunity to thank our really hardworking elections folks. They've been great to work with throughout this process, but I wanted to recognize that they do a tremendous job of running elections in this state, and none of the bills I brought this session were targeting them. It was just how do we improve the process that we currently have. When it comes to this bill, I want everyone to think about the last election. And one of the complaints we heard is why don't we know the results sooner? That was a complaint we heard over and over and over again. And I think, embedded in that complaint was a lack of information. We didn't know how many ballots were still left to be counted. As this committee knows through data that's been provided by the Secretary of State, we don't actually receive that many ballots in the mail after Election Day. That number is pretty small, but as I mentioned in prior hearings, what we do get a lot of is people dropping off their ballots in drop boxes on Election Day. We receive a lot of mail from the USPS on Election Day, and I think what this bill is going to do is it's going to help us know sooner, for instance, for the presidential race, for the U.S. Senate race, for some of our congressional races. Had we known how many ballots were left to be counted, we could have reasonably made projections about who the winner was going to be. It was the fact that we didn't know how many ballots there were. That bleeds down to Assembly and Senate races as well. I mean, one of my consternations of the 3, 4, 5 days after the election is we had a number of races that were very, very close, and we just didn't know how many ballots were left to be counted. So I think what we're going to have here is, instead of speculating, because I heard all kinds of numbers. I heard it could be 10,000 ballots in Clark County. It could be 100,000 ballots in Clark County. The truth is we know how many ballots were left to be counted. We just were not able to get that information in a coherent fashion. And, I think every county clerk is able to provide that information, but there's some real benefit to standardizing when that information is going to be provided and how it's going to be provided, because then we have an entire snapshot of the state. So I think ultimately what this bill is going to do is help us know the results of elections sooner. So for that reason, and if nothing else, to prevent the massive amounts of disinformation and misinformation that just are inevitably going to happen on social media, this bill standardizes and gives us one official source of information about ballots that are still left to be counted. And I think that's a benefit for everybody and will help improve elections in the state. So I would urge your support of this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for all your hard work on both these bills, and thank you to your co-presenters. With that, we will close the hearing on Assembly Bill 496. And our next bill we're going to hear is Assembly Bill 73. I'd like to open the hearing on Assembly Bill 73.
Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw and members of the committee. For the record, I'm Nevada Secretary of State Cisco Aguilar. It is a pleasure to see you today. I am joined by Chief Deputy Gabriel DeCara in Las Vegas and Deputy for Elections Mark Voloshin in Carson City. We're here today to provide you an overview of Assembly Bill 73 regarding artificial intelligence in elections, and then take your questions. Over the last 30 years, there have been many changes to how candidates campaign for elected office. The creation of the internet and massive expansion of social media changed the very methods a candidate would use to communicate with voters. While walking neighborhoods and knocking on doors will always be important, how campaigns talk to voters has always been updated alongside new technology. The changing state demographics have also led to similar changes in how we talk to voters. Back in 1990, Clark County had only 300,000 registered voters, roughly 1/5 of how many they have today. Over the years, our legislature has found ways to address these changes. Artificial intelligence presents another turning point when it comes to campaigning for elected office. While AI may be used to create amusing pictures of, say, George Washington surfing at Lake Tahoe, there are so many generative AI tools available for use that it is a certainty they are going to be used during political campaigns. Some will be lighthearted, but slightly less obvious than the previous one, like this fake picture of a man surrounded by puppies, but others may be nefarious in purpose. I will also note it doesn't take much to create these artificial images. It's as easy as downloading an app, which indicates that as time goes on, AI could be utilized more broadly than we've seen in past elections. I want to clarify for the record that Assembly Bill 73 does not attempt to limit protected political speech. The First Amendment to our Constitution is sacred, and we take the protections it provides very seriously when it comes to the administration of elections. Assembly Bill 73 would require certain disclosures similar to what is under the picture on this slide. This requirement for disclosures would not apply to those items that have a retail cost of less than $5, which is consistent with other similar items as already identified in statute.
Gabriel DeCara, Chief Deputy Secretary of State, for the record. The original draft of this bill was based on similar legislation that passed in the state of Washington that we felt represented the best building blocks for legislation of this type. But every state is unique, and so are their election laws. As such, this bill was amended in the Assembly, making certain changes, many of which were technical in nature. One new addition to the bill is a personal cause of action, allowing a candidate that has been targeted by a deceptive or fraudulent deepfake to seek relief through the legal system. We've had outreach from a number of stakeholders across the media landscape about the liability language included in the amendment, and I believe we have found language that should work with everyone. There is a brief conceptual amendment, which would include streaming services at entities that are exempt from liability under this law to ensure parity between different types of media.
Cisco Aguilar, for the record, as the world changes and political campaigns change how they communicate with voters, we need to make sure we are adapting to the law, adapting our laws as well. I firmly believe in Assembly Bill 73 will be a major step forward in modernizing and increasing transparency for voters. This concludes our presentation. We look forward to any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. Secretary, Chief Deputy Secretary of State. Appreciate the presentation on the bill. Members, any questions on Assembly Bill 73? Senator Krasner.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Secretary of State Aguilar. I appreciate you bringing this bill, and I would respectfully ask that you make it a little bit stronger even, and I'll tell you why. I think that this should be a crime. I think it should be at least a misdemeanor because this conduct is intentional. It's intended to confuse the voters. It sheds a negative light on the person they're trying to fool the people about how they really feel. It's fraud. This could happen to any of us. Let's say it was you. Maybe you're up for election, I don't know, or some of our constitutional officers, anybody in this building. They take a picture of you, they make it look like you're talking and saying horrible things, things that you don't stand for, things that you would never believe in. And people don't know. They see it on TV over and over and over and over, even though it has that statement at the beginning or statement at the end or statement during the whole thing. They see you and your name and your face, and they think, I always thought he was a good guy. And that's all that sticks in their head. Or they hear that radio announcement. This is Cisco Aguilar, your Secretary of State, and I think this, and I think that, and I think the other thing, and people might just turn it off before they even get to that final 2-minute mark. It's just wrong. This should be a crime. This is intentional conduct by somebody trying to confuse and mislead the voters. So I'm just respectfully asking you go a step further and make it a misdemeanor for someone to intentionally do this. Thank you, sir. Oh, and one more thing. You and I are of different political parties too, but I still wouldn't like to see someone doing this to you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, to Senator Krasner.
Oh, please go direct, Mr. Secretary. Thank you.
Okay. Senator, thank you for your comments, and I truly understand that. Again, as we go through the innovation of AI, and its implemented use, I think we have to monitor and continue. This is incremental. I think we have to look at it, we have to understand it, and we have to deal with it as it comes. Again, it's also managing political free speech, right? One of the greatest protections we have in our Constitution is the First Amendment, along with other amendments, but this is an opportunity for us to continue to monitor it and make sure that we are in a position to continue to deal with it as we go forward. I don't know what AI is going to look like in 2 years when we're hopefully all sitting here again having this conversation. But again, we have to start somewhere, and I believe this is a great first step, but we will take those considerations into mind as we move forward. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Follow-up, Senator Krasner.
Thank you, Chair. And so respectfully, Mr. Secretary of State, I have to disagree because I'm a huge advocate for our Constitution, the United States Constitution, Nevada Constitution, and every single right under that Constitution that belongs to the citizens of our country. However, that would be me saying, I think that person is this or that or the other thing. That's my free speech right. But for somebody to intentionally put a fraud, you know, they're fraudulently portraying someone else, and they are doing it intentionally. They're intentionally taking a picture of you and putting words that you never said and never would say and don't believe in, and they're doing it intentionally to shed a negative light on you and to mislead the voters, trick the voters, fool the voters. It rises higher than this. I just feel like it should be at least a misdemeanor. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Gabriel DeCara.
Well, please go ahead.
Apologies, Chair Orenshaw. Gabriel DeCara for the record. Senator Krasner, I absolutely understand. I do want to add that in conducting research around bills of this type, we did find that attempts to prohibit or criminalize this conduct were less likely to pass and more likely to be successfully challenged in the courts. As Secretary Aguilar said, this is something we take incredibly seriously, but we also wanted to present the legislature with something we felt could withstand at least this first legal phase of looking at the regulation of AI. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Vice Chair Daley, he had to step out, but he did give me a question he wanted me to ask, if you don't mind. He asked in Section 1, he wondered why we're not trying to capture issue advocacy types of communication, and he wanted to be reminded how that type of communication is currently regulated, and he was happy for whatever answer you could give right now, but also if you wanted to follow up with him later, that would be great too. But he had to step out of the meeting and just wanted me to ask that question for him.
Thank you for the question, Senator Orenshaw, and by proxy, Senator Daley. That was not the type of communication that Senator Daley is referencing. If that is not included here, that was an oversight. Again, this legislation was initially based on legislation out of Washington. I believe it should cover all political communication, which would include ballot advocacy. But if it doesn't, I'm happy to take a look and provide revised language. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Chief Deputy Secretary of State. I'll let Vice Chair Daley know, and if you don't mind following up with him as well, I sure appreciate that, because I think certainly his desire that it would catch those types of groups too if they're using AI in any of their advertisements. Not seeing any other questions from our members, I'd like to now open it up to support for Assembly Bill 73. Whoever would like to come forward, either hearing room, Carson City or Las Vegas. Good afternoon. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Ryan Vortish. That's spelled R-Y-A-N, last name V-O-R-T-I-S-C-H, and I am the Northern Nevada Democracy Coordinator of Silver State Voices. I'm here to testify in support of AB 73 on behalf of my organization and the Let Nevadans Vote Coalition. The rise of artificial intelligence poses a grave threat to our elections if voters are subject to digitally manipulated campaign communications without proper disclosures. At Silver State Voices, we believe that our vote is an act of power, one that should be wielded in confidence with proper preparation and understanding. Therefore, it is imperative that we provide Nevadans with the tools necessary to identify false information or perceptions of events that could influence how their ballot is cast. We appreciate the leadership of the Secretary of State's office in taking a stance on this complex, nuanced issue, and we are in strong support of this bill for its commitment to upholding honest and fair elections. Let Nevada join the other 20 states that have already addressed this critical issue, and please pass AB 73. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Down in Southern Nevada, good afternoon, sir. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw and members of the committee. My name is William Moore, spelled Williammoore, and I'm the Civic Engagement Director with Mi Familia en Acción in Nevada, here testifying in support of AB 73. Mi Familia en Acción is a civic engagement organization that works with the community year-round to push for progress on different issues impacting us, a priority amongst them being voting rights. We're here in support of AB 73 primarily due to the fact that we need to be protected from disinformation. While in the community last year, we helped provide eligible voters with election materials and resources, and with the rise of technology, we know community members are using online information as a resource. However, we need to ensure information regarding elections is accurate. We need our laws to protect us against inaccurate information or intentional misinformation from bad actors. We urge you to support AB 73 because at Mi Familia en Acción, we believe that communications between people in positions of authority in our community need to be transparent. Thank you to the Assembly Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections for sponsoring this bill. We urge the committee to support AB 73. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moore. Thanks for your testimony. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone else in either of the hearing rooms come forward. So broadcasting, can we go to the phone lines in support of Assembly Bill 73?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support of Assembly Bill 73, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Shelby Swartz. I'm the Executive Director of Battleborn Progress in the Institute for Progressive Nevada. As the communications hub for the progressive movement in the state and the home of a research program that specifically looks into disinformation, we are in strong support of this bill. Thank you.
Good afternoon. This is Iris Stone, IRISSTONE. During the April 1 Assembly hearing, I opposed AB 73, and I'm pleased to see the amendment 379 that addressed my key concern of the original bill, Section 3, which required copies of the synthetic media to be sent to the Secretary of State's office. This, in my opinion, represented a great overreach by this office. It will also have incurred excessive financial burden to our state as well. However, it makes sense to require political entities to disclose a clear communication stating when the synthetic media item has been altered or enhanced by artificial intelligence technique. I now support this bill, and I want to thank the committee for applying common sense by issuing this amendment. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Once again, we are in support testimony for Assembly Bill 73. If you'd like to testify, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no additional callers in support at this time.
Thank you very much. And I believe we have one more witness who wants to speak in support. Please state your name for the record and proceed, and then we'll go off to opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Edith Duarte with Western Public Affairs, today representing TechNet. We are in support of the bill. We appreciate the Secretary of State and his staff for working with us on the amendment and are here in support. We were opposed previously, but are grateful for the changes.
Thank you very much, Ms. Duarte. With that, I'd like to go now to opposition. Anyone who's opposed to the measure wishes to be heard. Good afternoon, Mr. Ojadi. Support? Okay, thank you. And support, we'll stay in support. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Yeah, Cyrus, Hojjaty, support, and I will echo. Sorry, I lost my bag, so I had to.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Appreciate it. Not seeing anyone else in support. In either of the hearing rooms, broadcasting went through all the callers. We'll now go to opposition. Anyone who's opposed to the measure, either in Carson City or in Las Vegas? I don't see anyone coming forward. Broadcasting, anyone on the phone lines in opposition to Assembly Bill 73 who wishes to be heard.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 73, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you. Neutral. Anyone who's neutral on the measure and wishes to put that on the record? Good afternoon. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Good to see you. For the record, Trey Abney, Trayabney, here on behalf of the Nevada Broadcasters Association. We really appreciate the Secretary of State's office and Gabriel in particular for working with us. We have no issues with this bill. Just wanted to make sure that broadcasters who are handed the ads and the messages aren't liable for the messages and the ads if they were used with AI submitted. So we appreciate that, and we are neutral on the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abney. I don't see anyone else coming forward in either of the hearing rooms for the neutral position. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines who wishes to be heard on the record in the neutral position?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in neutral to Assembly Bill 73, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you very much. To our presenters, are there any closing comments that you'd like to make? You're welcome to come forward if you'd like, but you don't have to. No? Okay. Looks like our presenters are going to skip the closing comments. Thank you for your presentation on Assembly Bill 73. And with that, we are now going to close the hearing on Assembly Bill 73, and we're going to open the hearing on Assembly Bill 79. Thank you again.
Good afternoon again. Oh,
thank you, Mr.
Good
Secretary.
afternoon,
Thank you, Chief Deputy Secretary of State. Thank you, Secretary Woloshyn.
Thank you. Good afternoon again, Chair Orenshaw and members of the committee. For the record, I'm Nevada Secretary of State Cisco Aguilar. It's a pleasure to see you again today. I'm joined by Chief Deputy Gabriel DeCara here in Las Vegas and Deputy for Elections Mark Woloshyn in Carson City. We're here today to provide you an overview of Assembly Bill 79 and then take your questions. As you've heard me say before, my 3 guiding principles for the upcoming biennium are modernization, innovation, and transparency. And this bill is heavily focused on transparency. Campaign finance laws are generally contained in Chapter 294A of our revised statute. That chapter is critical to my role as a regulator because it ensures an even playing field for all individuals and candidates and PACs who wish to be involved in the political process. Assembly Bill 79 has a few main elements, which are as follows: clarifying what a PAC can spend money on, requiring candidates and former public officers to notify the Office of the Secretary of State once they disposed of campaign funds after an election, clarifying how campaign funds can and cannot be spent, which would use the same standard as the Federal Elections Commission, revising the definition of a committee for political action for clarity, requiring any candidate who receives $100 in donations before the candidate filing period file a notice with the Secretary of State, and instituting a formal administrative hearing process for matters relating to campaign finance enforcement. I'll now turn it over to Chief Deputy DeCara to talk through the amendments.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Good afternoon, Chief Deputy. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Orenshaw, Gabriel DeCara for the record. This bill has been amended after a number of conversations with seated officials, former candidates, organizations, and other stakeholders whose collaboration we very much appreciate. Notably, the previously adopted amendment to Section 3 codifies in state law the irrespective test used by the Federal Elections Commission. We firmly believe that in certain circumstances, the use of campaign funds for child or elder care are more than appropriate, but the most effective way to do this is by formalizing that FEC standard. Specifically, the FEC does allow candidates for office to use campaign funds for child care and has done so since 2018. There is an additional requested conceptual amendment, which was recently submitted to this committee based on feedback from Senator Daley in the hearing on Speaker Yeager's AB 497, which features similar language. As Secretary Aguilar said, transparency is of paramount importance in matters of campaign finance. This amendment would clarify that while entities like nonprofits and labor unions are not PACs, if they engage in political activities, such as supporting or opposing candidates or ballot questions, and make expenditures as part of those activities, they must report those expenses to the Secretary of State's office. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cisco Aguilar, Secretary of State. Transparency is such a critical part of our electoral process and ensuring that voters are comfortable and confident with their choices. This concludes our presentation. We look forward to any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions for our Secretary of State, our Chief Deputy Secretary of State? No questions from the members who are here. However, Vice Chair Daley did have to step out, and he did leave me a list of some questions that he'd like me to ask on the record. So I'll ask them, and if you can provide answers now, that's great. But if not, please follow up with him and the rest of the committee after the hearing. As to Section 1, Vice Chair Daley, Section 1, subparagraph 3, he was wondering if separate accounts would have to be opened for special election contributions, or what would be required? Would there be an issue if there was not a separate account? That's the first question he asked, and I don't know if you'd like me to go through them all now, or have you answer them and go through the rest of his questions.
Gabriel DeCara for the record. Why don't we go through them one at a time? My understanding is that for the purposes of this bill, if an existing entity such as a nonprofit or a labor union were to engage in political activity, that would not require a separate account, separate from whatever they already have set up. Again, tracking contributions to those entities is not considered in this bill. It is only the tracking of expenditures. What are they spending political funds on? If they wanted to open a separate account for their own purposes, that would be more than acceptable, but it is not required under the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Deputy Secretary of State DeCara. And actually, Vice Chair Daley has returned, so I'll turn it over to him for the rest of his questions on Assembly Bill 79.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I need to bring the computer up here in a second, but I do have some notes. I think Section 4, so when will the form that we're talking about there on disposal be due? Won't the C&E rules capture this anyway? Why do we have a second form? Because it seems to me the C&Es would capture it.
Thank you for the question, Senator Daley. Gabriel DeCara for the record. This would not change the requirements related to the when candidates or former officials dispose of their campaign funds. However, as of right now, that is not required to be reported to us. Yes, in theory, a C&E should be filed that tracks all of those things. However, the Secretary of State's office is not aware if a candidate is utilizing those funds to run for office again, but potentially if they've accepted a contribution, making them a candidate again, et cetera. So right now we have no clarity on when a candidate is saying, okay, I'm hanging up my guns, I'm not a candidate anymore, I've disposed of these campaign funds. Requiring this form for them to affirmatively tell us I'm disposing of these funds because I'm no longer a candidate for office would create that finality. And if someone does not file this form with us, we could engage in follow-up. But right now there's a lack of clarity on when candidates are or are not running for office again. Thank you.
Any follow-up, Vice Chair Daley?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I'm just trying to review it here in Section 4. So you're trying to make a new form so you can get additional information. And I know we have rules about being able to hold on to the unspent campaign contributions for up to 4 years. I know there was another bill that clarified some of those things, assuming it passes. If not, we've got the old language. But you would still have to file those contribution and expense reports. If I said C&Es earlier, but everyone may not know what I'm talking about, contribution and expense forms. So if it's an election year, you would have to file those. To me, I understand quarterly reports. If it's not an election year, you would just have the annual one. How are you not capturing that information when the person, is going to turn in his final contribution expense?
Senator Daley, I'm not sure if you can hear us. I apologize. We lost audio here in hearing room 9 a good 10 seconds ago, so I only caught the first half of your question. That audio has not returned yet, so I will sit and wait until I can hear the rest of it. Apologies.
We can hear you. I think we'll be in a brief recess, see if we can work out this technical difficulty. We're in recess, members. Members, we'll come back to order. Hopefully in the Las Vegas hearing room, you can hear us. And looks like you can. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Chief Deputy Secretary of State. And please let us know if there are any other audio or video problems. I'll go back to Vice Chair Daley. I believe he was just about to ask a question.
Okay, thank you. So in Section 4, it says that there's going to be a new form that notifies the Secretary of State on a form prescribed when the candidate or public office, formal office, has disposed of all unspent contributions. So when is he going to get this form from you? Is it going to be online? It's just, if you're already doing your C&E reports, and let's just say I'm in the off year, right? There's no election. You're in the odd numbered year, and your C&E report is going to be due on January 15th. And during that time, you're going to capture that information on the C&E report if they dispose of their cash. They have to report what they did with it in one of those categories, et cetera. But if I'm reading this, if I did that halfway through, my C&E report's not done till the end or ready or due to the end of the year, I'm going to have to notify you separately and put in this extra report and my C&E report telling you the same stuff. So I'm just not seeing why you're not already capturing all of this information on the existing process of turning in a contribution and expense report.
Thank you for the question, Senator Daley. Gabriel DeCara for the record. There is nothing in the contribution and expense report that says even if you have a $0 balance, that does not necessarily mean that you are not a candidate or do not intend to be a candidate for public office. I would say something that our office hears, and I know that in the presentation on Speaker Yeager's campaign finance bill, I believe Mr. Schrager referenced it, there is a significant amount of confusion around what candidates have to dispose of funds and when. This form, yes, absolutely will be available, not only online. I believe we would likely also distribute it in the packets we give out to candidates when they file for office as a notification. This would serve not just as an important information tool for our office, but also an education tool for candidates who may not be reading through NRS 294A to discover exactly when and how they have to dispose of those funds. This would provide our office what we see as important affirmative notification that this individual is no longer a candidate for office, and would provide them with additional information on how to complete that process. Thank you.
Follow up, Vice Chair?
Yes, and thank you. Maybe Mark can come and talk to me later because I'm not seeing the need for it, but we'll go to the next question. So Section 7 is similar type of a question where you're saying that you have to provide a notice of an intent to file. And I'm also wondering, what are we trying to capture there with that additional notice? We all know when the filing dates are. Some people decide, you've seen it before, on the last day of filing, somebody goes down and files. And would this create a situation where, well, you didn't file a notice that you intended to, so now you can't file. And I'm just not understanding what this is actually going to accomplish. Some people are going to put in this notice. What are you going to do with it? People can change their mind after they put in the notice. We have a requirement when filing opens and when filing closes. And everyone's going to know the next day or by 5 o'clock that day or whenever filing closes. So I'm just not seeing tell me why we have to have this.
Thank you, Senator Cisco-Aguilar, Secretary of State. I'm going to give you a very specific situation. I recently went to switch bank accounts, and when I went to the bank or the financial institution, they would not open the account because of the fact that I could not prove that I was going to be a candidate for the next election. And so with this, it would give the candidates an opportunity to declare that they are a candidate for office and help them with some of the logistical things that come up prior to the filing date.
Gabriel DeCara, for the record, in addition to that, there is a compliance purpose here as well, Senator. As soon as you accept a contribution of $100 or more, you become a candidate, even if you have not filed for office. If you accept a donation of over $100, you become a candidate, and that means that you are responsible for things like C&E reports. There are oversight requirements that our office is required to oversee you as a candidate. But if you accept that $100 bill January 1, the year before the election, we're not going to know that you're a candidate. If you don't file those C&Es, we're not going to be aware. So this, again, would provide us with more information, provide the public with more information. And as the Secretary says, if it happens to the Secretary of State, we can tell you based on our emails. It happens to other candidates. This would be something official that says that this person is a candidate, they've accepted campaign funds, and it would also allow them to open that bank account. Thank you.
Thank you, and I just see it as the normal course. I'm not sure what problem we're trying to fix other than the bank account thing, which I never experienced myself, but anyway, I think all of the information is captured under the C&E reporting we have. Section 11, let me go to section 11. I'm looking at my notes. If you want to go to someone else, I can wait.
Members, are there any additional questions? No. No, we'll wait for Vice Chair Daly.
Okay, now I'm getting to section 11 and then looking at the requirement there. So, and I can get with you guys offline on this, but it seems to me that when there's a complaint that actually gets filed and you send out a notice, et cetera, in my opinion, there needs to be a period where they have to respond to that, right? And I can just give you one example. I think a couple of cycles ago, I had an issue. I filed a complaint. I sent it into the Secretary of State's office. They sent out the letter to the guy, hey, there's been a complaint and we need this information to do our investigation. And that person ignored you 4 months. Well, the office, it wasn't you, Secretary, it was a different secretary. Ignored the whole thing 4 months. The whole election came and we were in the next election cycle before they ever even answered the question after some back and forth to get them to finally answer. And then they answered just cursory, not really the information that was wanted. I do know in other areas of the law, when there's that type of complaint, a third-party complaint, goes to the agency then says, hey, you have to answer this complaint. They give them 15 days to respond. And if they don't respond, that's fine. Do so at your peril. And then the agency is able to act and go forward with the information that they do have. Because I think the whole process now without that requirement to respond is basically useless.
Thank you, Senator Daly. Gabriel DeCara, for the record, I appreciate your comments. I do believe that the administrative hearing process that we are seeking to implement here would help address that. It would no longer just be the Secretary of State's office asking for response, with our only course of action being having the Attorney General file a suit in the First Judicial District, having a defined administrative hearing process with a hearing officer that, if that individual were to, not show up, not respond, et cetera, the hearing officer could issue a written order on those penalties, et cetera. So I do believe this process would be of some help. Thank you.
And I do know, if I can, Mr. Chair, that having a requirement to respond in a timely fashion doesn't hurt anything. And then when you get that information as part of your investigation, if they want, like I said, if they want to not respond, you can go forward and try to subpoena them, try to file a complaint, a separate complaint, start a new one. But if they're not going to respond, they're not going to respond. And tell them, too bad, you didn't respond. I'm going to go forward with this complaint based on the information that I have. And, at your peril, don't respond. And I'm just saying, I think it'd be a better process. I know they have, I can get you language out of, I think, NRS 608 or 607, 200 and 210. It's also in NRS 338 in regards to complaints over labor issues. And that person who's been accused, essentially, by a third party that says, hey, I think there's a violation of the law. In this case, the labor commissioner gets that information, sends it on to the respondent, or the respondent is served by the person that's complaining, and they have 15 days to answer. If they don't answer, that's fine, but the complaint's going to go forward if there's enough information and you think there's a violation to proceed with or without them. I'm just telling you, get better compliance if you have a process like that.
Thank you, Senator Cisco-Aguilar, for the record. You know, for the first time last session, you granted us, the legislature gave us funds and resources to be able to build an investigative team. Prior to that, there was no investigative team to do the compliance work you're talking about. Now that we've gone through a cycle where we have a compliance team, we're happy and open to an amendment if that's what you wish to make. I understand and hear what you're saying, and it would make our team even stronger in being able to address some of these issues.
And thank you. That was, I think, my last question regarding this. I'm just trying to help, in my view, make it better. There's existing language you can cut and paste.
Thank you, Senator. Again, it goes back to resources. And again, for the first time, we've been able to get those resources to be able to do the work we're doing. And as we go on, we'd like to make that stronger and more useful to the public to be able to provide the transparency that they deserve.
Any further questions, Vice Chair? Or no. All right. Any other questions, members? Not seeing any other questions. Thank you very much for the presentation. We'd like to now go to support for Assembly Bill 79. Anyone who'd like to speak in support in either of the hearing rooms? Not seeing anyone come forward. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines in support of Assembly Bill 79?
If you would like to testify in support of AB 79, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are no callers wishing to testify in support at this time.
Thank you very much. Broadcasting. Opposition. Anyone who's opposed to Assembly Bill 79 who wishes to be heard in either of the hearing rooms, please come forward. Good afternoon. Ms. Hanson, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Janine Hanson. I'm the state chairman of the Independent American Party, and I oppose additional filings and additional requirements. I think that it's a hardship on people that want to run for office, and the more and more and more they have, the more and more they want, and I think it's a problem. Another problem I have with this bill is on page 4, section 4.5. This essentially makes the Secretary of State an administrative court. Now, we know in administrative courts that people lose their constitutional rights. They lose the right to trial by jury, they lose the right to due process, they lose the right to counsel. And the administrative court is essentially a kangaroo court. And what happens is that they can ask for judicial review, but judicial review does not go back and look at the original facts in the case. What they see is if the procedure was right, if they did it legally correct, but a person really doesn't get like a trial de novo, a new trial or a new opportunity to present the facts. And in this bill, a person can be guilty of a Class E felony, which means a year in jail, and then they lose their rights. This is a significant problem with this bill, and I do not want the Secretary of State adjudicating these things without some kind of supervision. I think it's very dangerous, and I've seen what happens in our administrative courts, and it can be devastating to the people that are there because they have lost their constitutional rights, which would be available in a court of law, but wouldn't be available in the Secretary of State adjudicating this. And so I'm very concerned about that portion of the bill, and that a person can be guilty of a Class C felony as well as additional filing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hanson. Mr. Ojadi, good afternoon. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Cyrus Ojadi, thank you so much for having me. I will ditto what the previous commentator pointed out.
Thank you very much for your comments. I'm not seeing anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition to the bill in the hearing rooms. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines who wishes to speak in opposition?
If you'd like to testify in opposition to AB 79, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members of the committee. Oh boy, I'm tongue-tied, sorry. I'm Kimberly Fergus, FER-GUS. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I stand in strong opposition to AB 79. This bill not only imposes unnecessary and burdensome reporting requirements on candidates and public officers, but also grants government overreach in ways that are punitive and excessive. Section 2.5 establishes a 5,000 contribution limit for any special elections, categorizing violations as a Category E felony under NRS 193.130. This is an excessive penalty for what could be an unintentional administrative oversight. Section 4 mandates candidates to notify the Secretary of State when disposing of unspent contributions under NRS 294A.160, increasing bureaucratic red tape without providing clear benefits to election integrity. Section 7 introduces a new requirement for filing a notice of intent to file for candidacy alongside existing financial disclosures under NRS 294A.130. This unnecessary redundancy only complicates the filing process for candidates. Section 11 grants unprecedented investigative powers to the Secretary of State, removing oversight by the First Judicial District Court and allowing unilaterally administrative fines without judicial review. This is clear violation of due process. Section 12 and 13.5 authorize the Secretary of State to maintain a public list of violators who fail to pay fines within 90 days. Public shaming as a punitive measure is inappropriate and opens the door to abuse of power. AB 79 burdens candidates and public officers with excessive regulations, disproportionate penalties, and expanded government control. This bill is a glaring example of regulatory overreach that undermines the principle of due process and fairness. I urge this committee to reject AB 79. Thank you.
Hello, Chair and members of the committee. This is Catherine Ivanov, IVANO Frank, and I'm in strong opposition of this bill. I did the previous speakers. Thank you and have a lovely day.
Hello again. My name is Ellen Gifford. I'd like to suggest that Section 4.5 of this bill requires details that explain where in the Nevada statutes the Secretary of State is given the powers to perform the duties that are listed in this section. NRS 225080, general duties for the Secretary of State, does not include any of that. Neither does NRS 225370, duties of the Secretary of State. NRS 225.540 addresses providing assistance to a Keep Nevada working task force. And we found that NRS 225.115 does address the administering of oaths and affirmations, but so far, a search of the statutes has not revealed that the Secretary of State has the powers to perform duties that are in this bill. There must be some legal requirements that must be met by the Secretary of State to give that position the powers this bill does. Have they been met? Section 11 of the original bill had the Attorney General involved, which seemed quite appropriate. Thank you.
If you have recently joined and would like to testify in opposition to AB 79, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Mr. Chairman, you have no callers wishing to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you, Broadcasting. I'd like to now go to neutral. Anyone who's neutral on Assembly Bill 79, either in Carson City or down in Las Vegas, who wishes to be heard? I'm not seeing anyone come forward. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines who wishes to be heard in the neutral position?
If you'd like to testify in neutral for AB 79, please press star 9 now to raise your hand and take your place in the queue. We have no callers wishing to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you very much. I see our presenter down in Las Vegas. Any closing comments you'd like to make? Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Chair Orenshall, members of the committee, for your time this afternoon. I want to provide a few important points of clarification. One, as Secretary Aguilar said, the purpose of campaign finance law is not just for the ease of use of the candidate, it's also for the public and the public good. Our office, knowing when someone has met the threshold of a candidate, meaning that they are expected to abide by certain statutes, there is benefit in that because that is information that becomes public record that we can make available. I will also add, I heard a lot of concern related to the administrative hearing provisions in sections 4.5 and 11. That language is taken straight from NRS 90, which is the Securities Act. The Secretary of State oversees the enforcement and regulation of securities in the state of Nevada and has, I believe, since, I know that the language around administrative hearings has been in statute since at least 1987, and at least for the last few decades. That power has resided within the Secretary of State's office. So I just want to make very clear to everyone that this is not giving the Secretary of State additional authority, powers that we do not otherwise possess. It is adding an important process that will also help with those who want to challenge what has been filed against them. It will give them that hearing process to do so. And that is why it was added. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Chief Deputy Secretary of State, and to Mr. Secretary Aguilar and to our Deputy Washington. Thank you so much for the presentation. With that, we'll now close the hearing on Assembly Bill 79, and I believe we'll be in a brief recess for just about a minute. Good afternoon, committee. We will come back to order. And thank you, Assemblymember LaRue Hatch, for joining us on Assembly Bill 256. I'd like to open their hearing on Assembly Bill 256. Thank you very much for being here to present.
Thank you so much, Chair Orenshaw and committee, for having us today. I am Assemblymember Selena LaRue Hatch, and I represent Assembly District 25, which is in West Reno. And I have two co-presenters with me, so I'm going to pass it to them to briefly introduce themselves, and then we'll get going.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. Good afternoon. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Hi, I'm Ann Macquarie. That's spelled ANNEMACQUARIE. I'm a member of the Nevada Rail Coalition and a member of the Volunteer Council of the National Rail Passengers Association.
Thank you very much for joining us. And down in Southern Nevada, please state your name for the record and proceed. Thank you for joining us on Assembly Bill 256.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Minjia Yan, MINJIAYAN, and I'm a commercial real estate professional with a background in housing and land use policy, and I've served on multiple stakeholders committees about regional planning, land use, and transportation here in Southern Nevada. Thank you.
Thank you to all our co-presenters. Assemblymember, whoever would like to begin.
All right. Thank you so much, Chair. So, as mentioned, and Selena LaRue Hatch for the record, AB 256 is a bill that is meant to develop a plan for implementing rail systems within communities across our state. If your constituents are anything like mine, you've probably heard from constituents that are complaining about traffic congestion and complaining about public transportation and wanting better solutions. And I think a lot of my constituents really would like to see light rail or some similar system within our communities across the state. We know that it's popular. We know that it will reduce congestion and emissions, and it will create jobs and boost the economy. And with that said, I'm going to pass it to Ms. Macquarie, who's going to talk about the history of rail work and the past efforts in this area.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again. For the record, my name is Ann Macquarie. In 2021, NDOT completed an updated Nevada State Rail Plan to assess Nevada's current rail system and identify opportunities for improvement. Though Nevada has little passenger rail service now, the plan points out that our existing and historical rail footprint offers a foundation for cost-effective rail projects, and existing tracks and rights-of-way may mitigate land acquisition and engineering costs. At the same time that NDOT was preparing the rail plan, a group of Nevada organizations, including rail advocates, rail unions, and environmental and social justice nonprofits, organized the Nevada Rail Coalition to advocate for implementing the state rail plan so passenger rail would become a part of our future transportation system in Nevada. The Regional Rail Transit Advisory Working Group that would be established by this bill would continue these Nevadan-led efforts to establish an effective regional rail system in Nevada to serve the transportation needs of families, businesses, tourism, and urban and rural communities. I'd like to talk a little bit about our system of transportation planning in Nevada, which is similar to those in all other states, in that we have regional transportation commissions generally on a county-to-county basis. So what that means, and this is just the way we do it and the way other states do it, is that there's a certain amount of siloing where sometimes the RTCs don't talk to each other. So what this bill would do is it would sort of unsilo the potential of regional rail. And this is being done in other states. I'd just like to give two examples. In California, they have the Capital Corridor route, which goes from San Jose through Oakland, through Sacramento, and up to Roseville, and hopefully eventually it's going to go to Reno. So that crosses many jurisdictions. And another example, which isn't quite as far along as that, is in the state of Colorado. They have already planned for and they are beginning to develop a regional rail system on the east slope between Denver and Fort Collins, which again goes between several jurisdictions. So that's the kind of thing that I would hope, if this bill passes, that the Regional Rail Transit Advisory Group would be thinking about and working on. Thank you.
And Assemblymember LaRue Hatch for the record. And there's a reason we used regional rail in this bill. We didn't want to say light rail specifically because many different kinds of rail may be appropriate to different communities. And we wanted to say regional because it might connect multiple counties. We may need a rail that takes us from Reno here to Carson. So when you fly in, you could just take that nice train down to your office and not have to rent a car. It might be connecting us to the Tahoe Regional Industrial Complex, which is a huge source of traffic for my constituents. And it might be within communities across Clark County as well and across cities. And so that's why we said regional rail. And with that in mind, I wanted to pass it to Ms. Yan in Clark, who is going to speak to the benefits of rail.
Thank you very much, Assemblymember LaRue Hatch. Ms. Yen, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Yep. Thank you. And for the record, my name is Mingja Yan, and thank you for the opportunity to co-present this bill. And I hope I will be able to add some broader perspectives about the benefits of this bill and a regional rail system, because I'm seeing this bill is not only just about a transportation issue, it is also about economic development and housing issues and create pathways to opportunity for all Nevadans. First of all, Nevada needs to maintain our economic competitiveness, and we need forward-thinking infrastructure and modern transit to do that. Nevada is competing with other states to attract young, good talent and companies in different industries. And companies increasingly prioritize regions with reliable multimodal transit systems when relocating or expanding their headquarters or their second location. And having a regional rail network would make Nevada more attractive to employers in sectors, especially like tech and healthcare. Similarly, skilled workers, especially younger generations, strongly prefer cities with robust public transit. And without action, Nevada risks losing talent to states like Utah, Colorado, and Arizona, which already prioritize regional rail connectivity. And we're not the only region in the country that can host conventions, concerts, and sports games. Other regions like Phoenix and Miami can do all of the above, and they have a regional rail system that connects all of their economic hubs, their universities, libraries, stadiums, hospitals, and airports. And having a rail system can actually help boost tourism and visitor spending. Tourism drives Nevada's economy, yet congestion on key routes like the Las Vegas Strip and I-15 negatively impacts the visitor experience. And a rail system would enhance visitor satisfaction, extend stays, and encourage spending. Cities like Phoenix, with its Valley Metro Rail, have seen tourism revenue rise by reducing reliance on overcrowded roads and traffic congestion. So therefore, investing in the rail system represents an opportunity to improve accessibility and the overall experience for our visitors. And number two, housing is actually a transit issue. Housing and transit are two sides of the same coin. And our affordable housing crisis is inseparable from our transportation challenges. And this bill would reimagine Nevada's landscape through transit-oriented development. Where you live determines how easy or difficult it is for you to get to important places like your jobs, your children's school, hospitals, or the grocery store, which in turn determines how much money you must spend on transportation. And this concept is known as location affordability. The true cost of housing is the cost of housing plus the cost of transportation. And by funding reliable, expanded transit like a regional rail system, this bill can unlock real estate development opportunities along the transit route, reduce sprawl, lowering housing costs by cutting residents' transportation expenses, and create walkable neighborhoods. Every dollar that we invest in transit amplifies housing affordability. For low and middle income families, transportation is the second largest household expense after rent. And according to a report published by Center for Transit-Oriented Development for HUD, quote, for households in car-dependent neighborhoods, transportation costs can compress as a 25% of income, compared to just 9% for households in more walkable transit-rich neighborhoods. So without reliable public transit, families are forced to spend 25 to 30% of their income on car payments, gas, maintenance, oil change, insurance, all of those expenses, leaving less money for them to pay for housing. So by investing in a regional rail system, it reduces the need for car ownership and lowers the true cost of living. And meanwhile, developers are more likely to include affordable units in projects near public transit when service is frequent and reliable. So investing in public transit also creates jobs in construction for both transit and housing, and supports local businesses by connecting workers and customers to commercial corridors. Affordable housing cannot exist without affordable transportation. Another example we have, Phoenix created the Valley Metro Rail System back in 2008 alongside a transit-oriented communities initiative, and since the construction of their light rail, they have added about 25,000 housing units along their transit route. And they also created a housing trust fund paired up with their rail expansion projects to subsidize low-income units. So last but not least, I'm also seeing this opportunity to create pathways to opportunity for all Nevadans. And the key for these regional rail systems is to plan with the community, not to the community. And a regional rail system guided by community-driven planning and proactive policies can transform transit infrastructure into a force for opportunity for all Nevadans. And Nevada can ensure its rail investments uplift communities. And this urban planning approach is called equitable transit-oriented development, to integrate public transit infrastructure with community development to ensure that people of all incomes, ethnicities, and abilities can enjoy the benefits of dense mixed use and pedestrian-oriented developments near transit hubs. So why does it matter now? Because Nevada cannot afford to wait. Cities like Phoenix, Seattle, and Denver have gained economic and environmental benefits from their regional rail system. Meanwhile, our current reliance on cars makes us falling behind, and the opposite of strong isn't weak, is dependence, and we are a car dependent state. So this is not just about trains, it's about redefining what Nevada can be, and states that invest in modern transit infrastructure are winning the race for businesses, jobs, and talent, and Nevada cannot afford to fall behind. So thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. And you know, I think certainly it's so timely. You know, growing up in Las Vegas, the congestion, the traffic is worse than it's ever been. So I think it's, I know everyone's working hard to try to, you know, make streets better, make roadways better, but I think if we had something like this, that would be helpful. And members, any questions for our presenters? Vice Chair Daley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's an easy question. It just, when we list out all of the people on there, the two legislators, and maybe you left it that way, open, it doesn't mention which house, doesn't matter or mention north or south, any split, everything else is split north and south. And I don't care about the party nearly as much, but it doesn't mention that either. It just was, it's not, it doesn't make any that much difference to me. I just didn't know if it was an oversight or if we wanted to specify north and south or split the houses or not.
So Assemblymember LaRue had for the record, and I appreciate that question. We also got it on the Assembly side, and you'll notice in the group, we were careful to try to make sure we had north and south and also rural, so there's representation. I was concerned, knowing this building, that if we start saying which house and which party and which geographic area for legislators, all of us are going to want to be in there, and then we'd end up adding 10 legislators to the bill, and I wanted to keep this as a manageable group. And so in my mind, because there was so much geographic diversity and diversity of experience built into the rest of the group, I was more open on, I just want to make sure we have 2 legislators, and they will be appointed by the Legislative Commission, so we can also have that safeguard in there to make sure that they are representing the diversity of the state.
Any follow-up, Vice Chair Daley? Senator Krasner.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Assembly Member LaRue Hatch, for bringing this bill. This is a really good idea. Now, do you envision it being a slow train, like traditional train, or a fast train like they have over in Europe, or what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question, Assemblymember LaRue Hatch, for the record. So actually, that's why I wanted this group to come together. One of the things that they are tasked with is identifying the need, because the need for Washoe connecting to those other counties nearby may be different than the need that is in Clark. And so that is for the group to decide is what kind of track is already existing that we maybe could utilize, what kind of system would work best, and where is the greatest need for it. So I would imagine this group would determine that, and then they will report back to interim growth and infrastructure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Senator Krasner? No. Right. Well, no, I really like the bill as well. I and one of your assembly colleagues and a bunch of other people were stranded at the Las Vegas airport yesterday due to the high winds. The planes couldn't fly, and I would have really loved a rail option to try to get up here to the north yesterday, especially when the winds were so fierce that planes couldn't land. And another anecdote I remember my dad had mentioned in the either late 60s or early 70s, there was a passenger rail service from Las Vegas to Ely that he used to take and ride up there. But no, now it's no longer, but it'd be great to see more of this happen. So not seeing any other questions from the committee, we'll now go to support for Assembly Bill 256. Anyone who wishes to put their support on the record, please come forward in either of the hearings. We'll start here in Carson City. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Olivia Tanager. For the record, I'm the director of the Sierra Club's Toyabe chapter. We're the state's largest grassroots environmental organization representing 40,000 members and supporters across our state. And we work and support transit-oriented development across the state and support our transportation systems. As our state experiences rapid population growth, particularly in our urban centers like Las Vegas and Reno, the demand for efficient, sustainable, and interconnected transportation has never been greater. AB 256 represents a proactive step towards addressing these challenges by facilitating a comprehensive study of regional rail options. The establishment of this working group will enable Nevada to explore the potential benefits of regional rail, including reduced traffic congestion, lower greenhouse gas emissions, and enhanced economic development through improved connectivity. We urge your support on this important measure, and we really appreciate Assemblymember LaRue Hatch for bringing it forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
My name is Tristan St. Dennis, and I'm the Policy Associate for the Nevada Conservation League. We couldn't have said it better than Olivia, so I just wanted to ditto what she just said. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Ross Kinson, Teamsters Local 533, representing all of Northern Nevada and also the Northern Nevada Central Labor Council. I just want to briefly share a story. I was recently visiting my family, and they were up in Washington. To get an Uber from the airport to where I needed to go was $80, and instead I paid $3, got onto light rail, and made it there quicker than what I would have made it if I'd gotten an Uber, and had Wi-Fi the entire way and was able to get some work done. That is the convenience of having light rail and having it put together sensibly. And so I think that's what this bill accomplishes, is it takes all the experts from all different walks of life and actually puts together a plan so that we don't end up in a situation where we're wasting time and we're wasting money, but we're also connecting our communities together, which I think is something that we all should share and value, because it ultimately benefits our economy and benefits jobs in the area, which is something that's very near and dear to my heart. So thank you.
Thanks so much. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Gabe Christensen, CHRISTENSON. I'm the Nevada State Legislative Director for Smart TD. I represent conductors, brakemen, and switchmen in the state here. I'm also a freight railroad conductor. I've been on a lot of different groups that have been separately trying to work on getting passenger rail in Nevada. Every time I take a freight train east out of Sparks, I see traffic backed up for 5 to 10 miles trying to get out to the Tahoe Regional Industrial Center. My friends, my family, my neighbors, they all want this. Every time I go to Vegas to do business and things like that, I mean, like you said, traffic's a nightmare, and it'd be really cool to have light rail or something like that to get people in and out of the Strip and downtown and things, employees in and out. It's also, with our budget and everything, it would create new business in the state of Nevada. You know, it would bring rail carriers here, and the maintenance and everything that's associated with the roads would be pushed off on the people who own the tracks and operate on the tracks. So I think it's a win-win, AB 256, and I hope you guys can support it.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Good afternoon, Mr. Hojati. Thank you for being here. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Cyrus Hojati. I am the local chapter leader of Strong Towns Las Vegas. We are an urban planning organization fighting for alternatives for land use and transportation. I got to tell you, this is perhaps the best bill that's been conducted by the legislature. We like to thank the sponsor and many others that have brought this bill over. The cost of private vehicles is too high for a lot of people. It is strongly overpriced. Car infrastructure has its benefits, but the public costs and maintenance is very, very high. And we know that there's a lot of issues sustaining this policy. The benefits of transit is that it has a larger capacity, a higher volume to move large amounts of people in a very short period of time. Urban planning is the top issue living in the Las Vegas Valley. And yet people defend the car-dependent lifestyle, yet they fail to realize Las Vegas is the 6th densest urban area in the country. Why? Because I take two of my hands and I touch two houses. Not to mention these policies that are very car-dependent, a result of our road design, which I call STRODs, arterials. It's conducted by codes and regulations along with parking requirements. So the policies is not favorable to transit in addition to our land use policies. This has obviously created an unfavorable environment. Now, I do believe transit is going to help, commuter rail, light rail, bus rapid transit. However, I'm concerned that in the long term, the costs will be higher than expected. We should learn from Europe and East Asia how they build these systems at a smaller fraction of the costs. One system that we do support, an idea that San Jose is implementing, is personal rapid transit. Okay, it costs far less, and it's pretty much you can get from A to E without stopping in between. We also hope that federal lands, as outward expansion is continued, it's going to follow transit-oriented development, because we know that if you're doing the infill, the outward development have to work together. So we have to make sure that we plan for mass transit and we build the kinds of environments, as you can see here, this 5-story multi-use building that's attractive to pedestrians and transit-oriented development. And no, we're not against car. I believe people should drive fast. We get a lot of heat, a lot of criticism. Thank you so much. Great pleasure.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Carlos Hernandez, representing the Nevada State AFL-CIO. The AFL-CIO represents over 120 unions and more than 150,000 members across Nevada. We'd like to echo the comments made by our union affiliates, especially Mr. Ross Kinson and Mr. Gabe Christensen on this bill. We especially like to thank Assemblymember Selena LaRue Hatch for championing this issue and bringing this bill forward. And we urge the committee to support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Please state your name for the record and proceed. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Cadence Matijevich, C-A-D-E-N-C-E, M-A-T-I-J-E-V-I-C-H, representing Washoe County. Washoe County is proud to be here in support of AB 256, and we are grateful to Assemblymember LaRue Hatch for bringing it forward. Northern Nevada's largest source of air pollution is motor vehicle emissions. For obvious reasons, that's problematic, particularly given the Valley Basin environment in which we work, we recreate, we have our businesses, we have our schools. And we believe that the outcome of this advisory working group may indeed be solutions that will help reduce that and make our community more livable. We appreciate the efforts that are in this bill to have an advisory working group that's of a size that's manageable, but also represents the varied interests on this matter. We urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Trevor Parrish with the Vegas Chamber. The Chamber has a long history of supporting transportation infrastructure and views AB 256 as another tool to help boost our Nevada communities. We'd like to thank the bill sponsor for bringing this forward and for working to build a very diverse working group, which includes a representative from a Chamber of Commerce. Chair, members of the committee, thank you for your time and consideration of AB 256.
Thank you very much, Mr. Parrish. And anyone else in support, thank you very much for your patience. And we'll go down to Vegas in just a sec. We have 2 more witnesses here in Carson City. Thank you for your patience down in Las Vegas. Whoever would like to begin here in Carson City, please state your name for the record and proceed.
And committee members, my name is Caitlin Gatchanian, Caitlin Gatchalan, and I'm the Nevada representative for Southwest Energy Efficiency Project. SWEEP is a public interest nonprofit dedicated to advancing energy efficiency, beneficial electrification, and clean transportation in Nevada and 5 other states. SWEEP supports AB 256 and echo the previous statements. Also, I would like to mention that on Mother's Day, I got hit by a semi-truck, and this wouldn't have happened if we had a rail system in Nevada. I think something that's really important is that we should also consider the safety of our constituents when it comes to having transportation. So, thank you.
Thank goodness you're okay. Thank you for sharing, what you went through and testifying on the bill. Thanks for your testimony. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Chair, members of the committee, my name is Maria Nieto Orta, that's M-A-R-I-A, last name N-I-E-T-O, space O-R-T-A, representing the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada in support of AB 256. As a metropolitan planning organization and public transit provider for Southern Nevada, the RTC oversees public transportation, traffic management, roadway design and construction funding, transportation planning, and regional planning and for efforts including Southern Nevada Strong. The RTC has been committed to advancing an integrated, forward-thinking mobility strategy that includes high-capacity transit corridors such as light rail. Our onboard mobility plan completed in 2020 includes much of the comprehensive plan analysis outlined in AB 256. This plan identifies key transit corridors and integrates extensive stakeholder input, data analysis, and funding considerations to guide the future of high-capacity transit in Southern Nevada. We appreciate the opportunity and the bill sponsor to contribute to this important conversation and remain committed to enhancing mobility for our communities. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. And to our patient witness in Las Vegas, please state your name for the record and proceed. Thanks for your patience.
No worries. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Hector Arreola, last name A-R-R-E-O-L-A, and I am the Policy Fellow with the Nevada Environmental Justice Coalition. We are a statewide coalition of community organizations fighting for sustainability, justice, and equity in all levels of government decision-making, and we are here in support of Assembly Bill 256 and believe this step towards creating more connected, transit-friendly communities is crucial for long-term and sustainable growth. Last year, over 200 Nevadans shared their vision with us for reliable, convenient, and accessible transit options to transform our communities. Regional rail could fuel economic growth, connecting people to jobs, education, and essential services. Nevadans can't afford to lag behind the other fast-growing metro areas like Denver, Phoenix, and Salt Lake City, who have already invested in light rail. Even Tucson, a city half the size of Las Vegas, has a modern streetcar which has attracted billions in economic development and created thousands of new jobs for residents. Additionally, rail and public transit enhance walkability, increasing foot traffic to local businesses and supporting vibrant communities. Electrified rail is particularly offers significant environmental benefits by reducing emissions, improving air quality, and alleviating traffic congestion. Regional rail is a proven solution, not a new experiment. Los Angeles once thrived on a robust electric rail system from 1902 through 1955. The Pacific Electric Railway connected Los Angeles to Long Beach and fueled unprecedented economic growth between the cities. Prioritizing regional rail isn't about reinventing the wheel, it's about ensuring our communities have access to safe, reliable, and affordable transportation. Thank you for your time and dedication to the people of our state.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Not seeing anyone else in either of the hearing rooms, broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines who wishes to be heard in support of Assembly Bill 256?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support of Assembly Bill 256, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hello, my name is Aaron Harris. I'm a volunteer with the Sierra Club, but I'm also a knowledge worker, and I want to testify in strong support of this bill. The truth is, I don't know how else to put it, but places that have democratized access to rail just absolutely economically dominate the places that don't. As has been mentioned, billions of economic development are spurred by investments in rail systems that allow people to get where they need to go fast, comfortably, and sustainably. There are, a lot of people talk about the cost, but the truth is that you ask any place that has built rail, and none of them regret the cost, but they do regret one major thing, and that is they regret not building it sooner and building it bigger and building it faster. So I think this is a great opportunity for us as a state to really to invest in our economy, to reduce our liability when it comes to continuing to widen our roads and other infrastructure when there are alternatives that will save us money in the long term, as well as will last hundreds of years rather than tens of years. And there's also the element that places that have rail are able to reduce their parking requirements, which allows us to get better land value out of the spaces that we are building. And allows us to build a denser while still providing the same great access that people expect to have when visiting our state, as well as traveling around their neighborhoods. So for these reasons and many of the reasons that have been brought up before, I strongly urge you to vote in favor of this bill. Thank you.
Hi. Katrin Ivanov, IVANO Frank. I'm in support of this bill, mainly because my son thinks that's a great idea, and he's pretty smart. And also, I want to ditto what Cyrus said. Thank you, and everybody that is in support, actually. I'm just very confused. Why is this bill in this committee? But that's the point. Thank you. Have a lovely day.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Matthew Wilkie, for the record, WILKIE. Calling in support. I believe passing this bill is a smart, forward-thinking move that could lead to transformative improvements in mobility, economic development, and environmental sustainability for Nevada. And I urge your support, and for respect for your time, I will ditto those speakers in support. Thank you for your time.
Once again, we're in support testimony for Assembly Bill 256. If you just joined and would like to testify in support, please press *9 now.
Hello, everybody up there. I hope you all are having a good day. My name is John Carlo. I am calling on behalf of the Strong Towns, and I want to ditto Cyrus. And I would advise the legislators actually listen to the young man. He actually had some really good things to say. This is, he says, the #1 bill that this legislator has. So let's think about the green aspects and the fuel industry that we're trying to combat. And Carson City, we know, has higher gas prices than Las Vegas. And so green renewable energy, alternative sources is good. And I'm just wondering why we don't have it already. I've been privileged to be able to go to Paris and ride the Paris Metro, which was built in the 1900s. And I've rode different subways, which I'm going to say we should do subways for the common people and for the tourists. But let's think about the common people that live on the outskirts, on the east side. Traveling underground would be a very good solution in the summertime, because I see there's RTC bus stops. They don't even have shade out there for those people that barely have, bus fare money. We don't even have shade for those people. And also let us consider the 130 people that just died because of the poor city planning in Clark County. As of April the 30th of this year, there's been 130 people died on the roads in Clark County. So yes, the mass people mover, it's a good thing. We actually would support you guys on this. This is something we can come together and talk about. So anyways, I did owe my friend up there and congratulate him for doing a good job. So please, you guys have a good day, and thank you guys for listening. Bye-bye.
Caller, you're unmuted. Please proceed.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I've just literally just arrived late. For the record, my name is Ron Kamiko. I live in Reno, Nevada, recently retired locomotive engineer of 25 years. I'm here representing Railroad Workers United, speaking in support of AB 256. And so what people may not realize is that regional rail came into big time existence all throughout the West in the last 25 years or so, including in Denver, Colorado, and a surrounding 5-county regional commission, Salt Lake City, Ogden, the front runner, and the RTC out there has promoted a very successful regional passenger rail system, as has Albuquerque, New Mexico, the SMART train in Sonoma, Marin County over in California, and of course Amtrak's California corridor between Sacramento, the Bay Area, and San Jose. All of these are examples that have come about in the last 25 years as these metro areas have exploded in population, similar to what is happening in northern Nevada and also in southern Nevada. And so we need a commission. We need this committee, if you will, to study the feasibility of doing something just like that, what has been so successful in these other areas around the West. And so I urge the Assembly in the state of Nevada to move forward with investigating the prospects of being able to emulate those other passenger rail systems throughout the West and support AB 256. Thank you.
Caller, please press the unmute button on your Zoom window. Please ensure that your microphone icon turns white so that you are unmuted. Brittany, if you still wish to testify, please press the unmute button on your Zoom window. The caller may have changed their mind, Chair. That's the last caller that we have at the moment.
All right, well, thank you very much, broadcasting. I'd like to now go to opposition. Anyone who's opposed to the measure in either of the hearing rooms, please come forward. Not seeing anyone come forward. Broadcasting on the phone lines, is there anyone in opposition to the bill who wants to be heard?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 256, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon, Oscar Williams, OSCAR WILLIAMS, from Reno, Nevada. The presenter suggested that AB 256 was cost effective. I challenge that. What are the actual numbers that we're talking about? I don't believe any have been presented. I would suggest to you that it is not cost effective. It will never be cost effective. For example, in comparison, let's look at the South Florida Bright Line connecting Miami to Orlando. $6 billion in debt and growing. Is that what we're looking at in Washoe County? Are we going to be encumbered with another $6 billion in debt? The state is already in the hole for $200 million. Washoe County's $35 million in the hole. Reno's $21 million in the hole. Sparks is cutting services right and left. Where is the money going to come from? This is a bad bill for taxpayers. It seems to favor the Reno Tahoe Industrial Park. You heard several people mention that. And I don't know how that benefits me. Why should my tax dollars go to help Lance Gilman and the tenants of the Reno Tahoe Industrial Park? And I ask, will the rail system stop at Gilman's brothel? Why wouldn't it? I mean, this is like this bill couldn't have been written any better by Lance Gilman himself. It's a boon to him to expect the taxpayers to foot the bill to bring employees to his tenants at the industrial park. I just don't think that that's in my best interest. And I think that this bill runs into some constitutional issues that have been adjudicated by the Nevada Supreme Court. Please allow me to present a couple of cases to you. I'm not going to read the cases. I'll just give you the citations and let the Legislative Council Bureau of Legal Counsel sift through it. Basically, it is Clark County versus City of Las Vegas, 550 P.2D779 from 1976. Whenever a state or local government decides to select persons by popular election to perform governmental functions, the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment requires that each qualified voter must be given equal opportunity to participate in that election.
Mr. Williams, sorry to interrupt you. We are at 2 minutes. If you could wrap up your comments.
Man, that was a fast 2 minutes. Darn it, I must be getting slower. But I'm told if I talk too fast, then nobody can hear me. It has no benefit to me. Please vote no on AB 256 and Amendment 100. Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams.
Chair, we have no additional callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you very much. I'd like to now go to neutral. Anyone who's neutral on Assembly Bill 256 wishes to be heard, either in Carson City or down in Las Vegas. I'm not seeing anyone come forward. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines who's neutral on the measure and wishes to be heard?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in neutral to Assembly Bill 256, please press *9 now or raise hand in your Zoom window to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you very much. I'd like to invite our sponsor, Assemblymember LaRue Hatch. Any closing comments you'd like to make? No, well, thank you very much for presenting the bill in such short notice. We sure appreciate it, and thank you to all your co-presenters. I'll close the hearing on Assembly Bill 256. And before I open the hearing on Assembly Bill 367, I just want to ask, would you want me to have the committee take a brief recess so that I understand there's some interpreters here or in the Las Vegas hearing room. I don't know if there's anything that needs to be prepared or not. No, ready to go? Okay, right. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here to present Assembly Bill 367. We'll now open the hearing on AB 367.
Good afternoon. Let's try one more time. Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw and committee members. My name is Chanel, Chanel, Casanello, Cassanello, and I'm the campaign manager at All Voting is Local Action Nevada, an organization that advocates for policies and legislation that expands voter access. It's a pleasure to present AB 367 before you today. Unfortunately, Assemblymember Gonzalez cannot be here, but I want to thank her for her support on this interim committee bill addressing language access in elections. Before proceeding with the presentation, I'll just share some remarks she had prepared. Every Nevadan has a fundamental right to participate in the electoral process. However, this right is often restricted for limited English proficient Nevadans due to language barriers that discourage them from participating in the process. To ensure fair and equitable access to voting, we must move towards providing voting materials and election information in the languages that many eligible voters read and speak. Nevada is a diverse state, the third most diverse state in the nation as per the 2020 U.S. Census. And I'd argue that this diversity is our state's greatest strength. We have the fourth largest population of residents who identify as Asian American and Pacific Islander, and the fifth largest population of those who identify as Hispanic. Compared to the 2010 census, both communities grew significantly in just a decade. The AAPI population grew 45.6%, and the Hispanic community grew 24.3%. As our state continues to diversify, the number of people speaking a language other than English at home continues to grow. Although there are existing federal requirements for providing voting materials in languages other than English, these requirements often do not go far enough. Assembly Bill 367 seeks to establish additional state standards for providing voting materials and interpretive services in various languages to ensure equitable access to the ballot box. The bill codifies 5 main components, which will be reviewed shortly. And this concludes Assemblymember Gonzalez's remarks. And as she expressed, the intent of this bill is to ensure all eligible voters, no matter their primary language, have equal access to voting resources. By protecting and expanding essential language access resources currently implemented by the Secretary of State's office on a voluntary basis, we can set a foundation to build upon to further reduce language barriers to the ballot box. Without doing so, we risk abandoning historically marginalized communities. Specifically, we're talking about voters whose primary language is not English. I should give you a cue. First, I just want to review the makeup of Nevadan voters and highlight findings of the 2020 U.S. Census. As mentioned, Nevada is the third most diverse state in the country, with about 30% of the population speaking a language other than English at home. Spanish is spoken by 21% of the state population and 12% of our rural population. Nearly 500,000 Nevadans over 18 years of age speak a language other than English, and over 125,000 Nevadans over 18 years of age speak a primary language other than English. Over 119,000 Nevadans have a hearing difficulty, and over 85,000 have a vision difficulty. Again, our state has the fourth largest population of people who identify as AAPI and the fifth largest population of those who identify as Hispanic. And lastly, the top languages spoken other than English are Spanish, Tagalog or Filipino, Chinese, Mandarin, Cantonese, Amharic, Somali, other Afro-Asiatic, and German. Thank you. As a state that is highly diverse and will continue to grow in that direction, it's critical that every future Secretary of State continues to provide voting resources and election information for voters who do not primarily speak English. Currently, there is no state mandate to require voting materials unless voters meet thresholds established by the Voting Rights Act. Our population of LEP voters who do not fall within these thresholds are left out of the electoral process. Through this bill, the Nevada Legislature has an opportunity to catch these voters and ensure, regardless of the language they speak and read, they have access to accurate election information, have a chance to better understand their ballot, and can make well-informed decisions in every election moving forward. For additional background, the VRA of 1965 was enacted to make sure all citizens, especially Black Americans in the South at the time, could vote without facing unfair impediments such as literacy tests or poll taxes. It banned discriminatory practices and gave the federal government the power to step in if states tried to block people from voting. The 1975 reauthorization of the VRA expanded protections to include more groups such as non-English speakers, Native Americans, and people with disabilities. It ensures these groups have equal access to voting by requiring voting materials in different languages. Section 203 requires that if a certain number of people in an area speak a language other than English, the government must provide voting materials such as ballots and instructions in that language. This ensures voters who do not speak English fluently can still understand how to vote and have an equal opportunity to participate in our elections. And Section 208 ensures that individuals who need help when voting can receive assistance from a person of their choice. With Section 203, it requires the state or local jurisdiction to provide voting materials to the following protected communities: Native American, Asian American and Pacific Islanders, Alaska Native, and Hispanic and Latino. In order to qualify for a federal mandate, these groups must meet a threshold of 5% of the voting age population or 10,000 citizens, be LEP of the same language, and have an illiteracy rate higher than the national average. Language determinations are made every 5 years by the U.S. Department of Justice using U.S. Census data, with the next one taking place next year in 2026. Section 208 allows people who have a disability or are illiterate and need help to vote to have someone of their choice assist them at a voting location. In the 80s, Congress amended the VRA by adding Section 208 to primarily establish it as an accommodation measure for disabled and illiterate voters, but it also has been applied to LEP voters when those voters require assistance to understand an English-only ballot. Section 208 applies nationwide and is not limited to specific groups or areas. It allows any voter who needs assistance, whether due to a disability, limited English proficiency, or any other reason, to have someone help them vote. In Nevada, 2 of our 17 counties are required to abide by Section 203. Clark County must provide voting materials and ballots in Spanish and Tagalog. Nye County must provide translation and interpretation services for Shoshone, which does not have a standard writing system. And although not required, Washoe County voluntarily provides bilingual sample ballots and ballots in Spanish, which serves 17.6% of the population that speaks Spanish. Through these 5 components, AB 367 cultivates a more inclusive system for Nevadan voters who face language barriers and are not protected by Section 203. It fills a gap for voters who cannot confidently utilize an English language ballot. In addition, this bill provides the Secretary of State's office with directions in order to plan out language accessibility programming and include it in their budget. These 5 components you see would first codify the Secretary of State's telephonic interpretation and translation services for voting-related questions in more than 200 languages, including ASL. The Secretary of State's office launched this hotline in 2024, which was utilized by voters seeking information on voting methods, candidates, ballot measures, and more, all in their primary language. This critical resource reduces the language access barrier for voters who want to participate in our democracy and who need clarification in the language they speak. They can utilize this hotline year-round to receive interpretation or translation assistance about voting information and assistance. Secondly, it would codify the Secretary of State's website translation to ensure voting information is available in a minimum of the 7 most common languages, which include Spanish, Tagalog, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Thai, and ASL. Third, it would authorize the use of certain devices, such as cell phones or tablets, inside polling places to ensure voters in the deaf and hard of hearing community can access virtual interpretation services at any location within their county. Fourth, it would mandate all statewide communications sent by the Secretary of State to occur in both English and Spanish. And lastly, it would fund the Language Access Coordinator position in the Secretary of State's office to continue targeted efforts towards addressing gaps in language accessibility. To wrap up, we're grateful to the Secretary of State's office for implementing these language resources and their commitment to expand their efforts. We strongly believe these resources should be protected to limit voter confusion and to cultivate a more inclusive electoral process. To be clear, the ability to vote does not equate to the access to vote. No voter in our state should feel intimidated by an English-only ballot and information, and they should not feel hesitant to vote due to a lack of translation or interpretation options in any county in our state. This legislation makes a meaningful impact on all Nevadan voters in both rural and urban communities. It gives direction to the Secretary of State's office, and it strengthens our democracy by ensuring all eligible voters have access to the information and resources they need to make well-informed decisions in every election. Chair Ornshaw, this concludes our presentation, and I, along with Deputy Secretary for Elections, Mark Washington, welcome any questions.
Thank you very much. Ms. Castanello, Deputy Secretary Washington, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Mark Washington, Deputy Secretary of State for Elections. For the record, last name is W-L-A-S-C-H-I-N. I do have one clarification that I just want to make. The reprint you have in front of you does reflect, the slides mentioned a conceptual amendment, but that has been applied to the version of the bill that you have in front of you, AB 367, the first reprint, does have those applied. just for the record. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions for our presenters? Senator Krasner.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your presentation. I just had a question. Do we have anything for Nevada voters who are blind, visually impaired? Can they vote in Braille, or what do we do for them?
Thank you for the question, Senator. Through you, Chair, to Senator Krasner.
Please go direct.
Okay, thank you. Yes, absolutely. In fact, there are federal requirements that are mirrored in state law as well to support all voters with disabilities. So the in-person voting opportunities, the machines do have an ability to read the ballot so that voters that are visually impaired or blind are able to get support for in-person voting as well. Yes.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Senator Krasner? No. Right. And any other? No other questions. Thank you so much for the presentation, and thank you so much, and I appreciate it. We'll now open the bill to support for Assembly Bill 367. Anyone who'd like to speak in support of the measure, either in Carson City or down in Las Vegas hearing room. Thanks everyone for their patience.
Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Emily Prasad Zamora, and that's spelled PERSAUD-ZAMORA, and I'm with the Executive Director of Silver State Voices, testifying on behalf of our organization and the Let Nevadans Vote Coalition in strong support of AB 367. During the 2020 census, Nevada was ranked the third most diverse state in the country. Despite this, at Silver State Voices, we continue to see language barriers prevent voters from fully and confidently participating in our elections. We run our nonpartisan election protection programs and get out the vote campaigns each election cycle, and we witness voters continuously express concerns about language access and translation services regarding voting materials, their ballots, or receiving assistance at the polls. We appreciate the dedication of the Secretary of State's office and clerks around all 17 counties within the state of Nevada in providing resources and accommodations for Nevada's diverse voters. However, it's clear that there's more work to be done. AB 367 represents the crucial intersection of language justice, disability rights, and voting rights. By codifying these necessary accessibility measures into law, we will be able to protect the constitutional right of all eligible voters to participate in the electoral process, which exists regardless of their preferred language or disability status. For this reason, we urge your support on this bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Ms. Prasad Zamora. Please say your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw and members of the committee. My name is Carissa Pierce, CARISSA-PEARCE, and I am the Government Affairs Manager with Children's Advocacy Alliance. We are in strong support of AB 367. Nevada is home to many diverse communities, and when families are unable to fully understand voting materials, they may feel overwhelmed or like they're going to make a mistake, which leads them to abstain from voting. This not only silences their voices, but also affects their children who rely on their parents to advocate for their future. When parents vote, they are voting for their children's education, healthcare, and overall well-being. By providing voting materials in multiple languages, AB 367 ensures that more families can participate in our democracy, making decisions that will shape a better future for their children. AB 367 is a simple solution that will have lasting positive impacts on Nevada's elections. Passing this bill ensures that more families can engage confidently and meaningfully in our democracy, making decisions that will shape stronger futures. Thank you for your consideration on this legislation, and we ask you to pass this bill.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Please say your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. For the record, my name is Noe Orozco. That's N-O-E, accent over the E, O-R-O-S-C-O. I'm the Government Affairs Manager with Make the Road Nevada, and we are a proud member of the Let Nevadans Vote Coalition. This country has long upheld that language should not be a barrier to citizenship or civic engagement. Under the U.S. naturalization laws, certain individuals can qualify for exemptions from the English language requirement when applying for citizenship. These policies reflect the fundamental truth that proficiency in English is not a prerequisite for voting. Furthermore, Many voters do have proficiency in English, but feel more comfortable reading critical election materials in their mother tongue. Elections are too important for any voter to have uncertainty about the meaning of their ballot. Access to accurate, translated election information ensures that all voters, regardless of their preferred language, can make informed choices with confidence. By recognizing and supporting AB 367, we strengthen our democracy and affirming that all citizens, whether they are fluent in English or more comfortable in their madre lengua, have the right to participate fully in shaping our communities and our futures. And for that, we ask you to support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Mr. Roscoe. Dr. Tenorio, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Isaac Tenorio, IZACK-TENORIO, with Strategy 360, today representing Camping Legal Center. Camping Legal Center supports AB 367 to help ensure that all voters, no matter what language they speak, can participate fully in the electoral process. America is made better by the democratic participation of all citizens, not just those who speak fluent English. Communities using a different language or American Sign Language as their primary means of communications should equivocally be afforded the same opportunity to critically engage with the full scope of the American electoral process. This bill will help codify important improvements made by the Secretary of State, such as making information about elections translated and available online into a minimum of 7 of the most widely spoken non-English languages in the state. Limited English proficiency should not limit political participation, and a lack of meaningful language assistance should not be a barrier to citizens in making their voices heard in our electoral process. While our organization is grateful for all the efforts made by the Secretary of State on this front, it is important that these programs are enriched into its state law to ensure that the communities will be able to access them for decades to come. We urge you to support this bill. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Down in Southern Nevada, whoever would like to begin, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair Arnshaw and members of the committee. My name is William Moore, spelled Williammoore, and I'm the Nevada Civic Engagement Director with Mi Familia en Acción, here testifying in support of AB 367. Mi Familia en Acción is a civic engagement organization and a proud member of the Let Nevadans Vote Coalition. We are here in support of AB 367 because our electorate needs to meet our diverse community where they are. Our Secretary of State showed leadership by showing up for our community last election, and the next step is codifying language access into law. Here in Nevada, our hard of hearing community is roughly 100,000 strong, and for them, language interpretation is essential. We also have seen that around a fifth of Nevadans speak another language besides English at home, even when a lot of them are proficient in English. We also saw this firsthand because during this last election cycle, when we did outreach to our community to share election resources, we did so in multiple languages. At Mi Familia en Acción, we believe that in order to facilitate a more active community, we need to support bills like AB 367. Thank you to the Assembly Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections for sponsoring this bill. We urge the committee to support AB 367. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Please state your name for the record and proceed. Down in Las Vegas.
Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw and committee members. For the record, my name is Matilda Miller. That's MATHILDA-MILLER, Government Relations Director of Native Voters Alliance Nevada, and we're in strong support of Assembly Bill 367. If we believe in democracy for all, then we have to mean all. Language should never be a barrier to voting, but right now, too many voters are left behind, not because they're unwilling, but because they're left unheard. I've seen what happens when someone wants to vote, but they don't have the words to ask for help. I've watched elders get so frustrated that they decide not to vote at all because they don't understand the instructions. In fact, my dad is 70 years old, and even at the oncologist's office, I have to be right by his side because he's afraid that he might misunderstand what his provider is saying to him about his care. He's afraid that he'll fumble the paperwork or the instructions and accidentally do something wrong. I've seen young people try to translate important documents for their parents. They're scared that they'll get it wrong. This isn't just a language issue, it's a dignity issue. It's also a power issue. This bill is about making sure that every single Nevadan has the tools to participate fully, confidently, and equally. Voting should feel like a welcome mat to every single eligible voter, not a closed door. We urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I don't see anyone else coming forward in either of the hearing rooms. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines who wishes to speak in support of the measure?
If you would like to testify in support of AB 367, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Shelby Swartz, and I'm the Executive Director of Battleborn Progress in the Institute for Progressive Nevada. I will go ahead and ditto what all of my colleagues and partner organizations have said, and also say that nobody should be locked out of our democracy because of a language barrier. Thank you so much.
Eric Wilcox, ERICWILCOX. Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. I'm the parent of a deaf child and chair of the Nevada Commission for Persons who are Deaf and Hard of Hearing, testifying today on behalf of the Deaf Commission. This issue of voter accessibility is of paramount importance to the community that we represent. The first and primary language for many in our community is American Sign Language, which is a visual language that is completely distinct from either written or spoken English. Limited English proficiency for some of these individuals continues to be a serious impediment to fully participating in elections in Nevada, and that's something that we have documented in our regular town hall meetings with the community around the state. For these reasons, the Commission is in strong support of this bill, and we thank the legislature for addressing this, and we urge your support. Thank you.
If you've recently joined and would like to testify in support of AB 367, please raise your hand now by pressing star 9 to join the queue. Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are no callers wishing to testify in support at this time.
Thank you very much. I'd like to now go to opposition. Anyone who's opposed to Assembly Bill 367 that wishes to be heard, either in Carson City or down in the Las Vegas hearing room, please come forward. Thank you for your patience. Whoever would like to begin, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you. Lynn Chapman, LYNNCHAPMAN, and I'm the state treasurer for the Independent American Party. According to the 22nd edition of Ethnologue, there are currently 7,111 living languages in the world today. Chinese has 13 variations and Arabic has 20. English is the #1 language used in the world today. According to World Data Info, only 1,000 years ago there were 9,000 languages. Due to increasing globalization, the number is decreasing. According to World Data Info, the top languages spoken in countries: French is spoken in 46 countries, Spanish in 34 countries, Chinese in 25 countries, Russian in 22 countries, English is spoken in 58 countries. If a person is a naturalized citizen, they are required to demonstrate proficiency in English, which includes reading, writing, and speaking. Now remember, the taxpayer is responsible to pay all the costs for printing election materials in all the numerous languages, for the toll-free phone numbers, for the certified translators, and so we have to be careful and be cautious of the taxpayers' money. In this bill, we are in favor of blind and disabled section of this bill. Please vote no on AB 357. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Good afternoon, Ms. Charjati. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
And we believe that discourages people to learn English and blend in with our values and everything else. So we urge you to vote no. Thank you.
Thanks for your testimony. I'm not seeing anyone else in either of the committee rooms broadcasting. Is there anyone on the phone lines in opposition to Assembly Bill 367 who wishes to be heard?
If you'd like to testify in opposition to AB 367, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon again. This is Iris Stone in Las Vegas, IRIS-STONE. While I'm pleased to see that amendment number 382 reduced the proposal for an extremely broad mandate to provide close to unlimited language support for all Nevada elections processes, I continue to strongly oppose AB 367. This bill would have a significant fiscal and workload burden at the state and county level with relatively minor impact. The fiscal notes quoted from the Secretary of State, Clark, Washoe, Douglas, Elko, and Lyon counties adds up to $3.1 million just for 2025 and 2026 in additional costs, and then a biannual ongoing expense estimate of about $2.3 million. For example, it includes the establishment of a new position called the Language Access Coordinator for the Office of the Secretary of State, since there are at least seven languages under consideration for the printed materials and the website. There would need to be resources to maintain the supporting election systems, providing for each of these languages. And the toll-free number would provide for up to 200 languages. That seems excessive. I personally immigrated many years ago, and I was anxious to learn English so that I could assimilate into the American society, get a job, make new friends, and study in English. While I can still speak my native language with family, I'm an American citizen now and proud that I can speak English as good as my native tongue. During some electioneering efforts in 24, I spoke to Latino immigrants who shared my perspective. They actually objected to receiving brochures in Spanish. They found it unnecessary and condescending. I suggest that Nevada would do better assigning a budget to offering English classes to people with limited English proficiency. That would align well with President Trump's March 1 executive order. It states that common language fosters national cohesion, helps newcomers engage in communities and traditions, and enriches our shared culture. It further states that establishing English as the official language promotes unity.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Thank you for your comments. We're at over 2 minutes. Could you try to wrap up your comments and wrap it up?
I will. It establishes efficiency in government operations. I'll leave it at that, and I say it's going to be very expensive and totally unnecessary. I appreciate your voting against AB 367. Thanks.
Thanks for your comments.
Good afternoon, Oscar Williams again, Reno, Nevada. I oppose AB 367. For example, regarding foreign languages, the solution is to learn English. You don't have to learn too much to be able to vote in our elections. And of course, our school districts provide an adult language program. There's no excuse for not getting into the program. It's free, and it's right there that we offer. So the opportunity is there to learn English, and that's the way to do it. And of course, our president has issued a mandate making English the language of the land. So it would be nice to bring it all together in that regard. With respect to disability, when you go to the polls, you can ask for a large type ballot that they produce on the machines, or you can use the auditory tactile interface, which is like a little hand controller, and you have a little headset that speaks to you, and you go, oh, okay, that's the selection. However, I don't believe there are any statistics on the numbers of the ATI units that are actually used in an election. There's not really a good statistical base to say you need more of that, or the cell phone will supplant it, because they're not really used that much. People, if they have disabilities, they go and they talk to the election board. That's usually what you get. And that's why the voting in person is so great, because you have a human there to help you. Regarding deaf people can still read, okay? And regarding illiteracy, which I think is really the crux of this bill, let's face it, the schools are failing, our kids are illiterate. The solution is fix the schools, don't give them a cell phone, right? This is really hidden in this, is driving everybody to use our cell phones in elections. There's a techno mission creep going on here. I urge you to vote no on AB 367 and Amendment 382. Thank you very much.
This is Ellen Gifford again, and I oppose AB 367, and I encourage new citizens to learn to speak our country's language of English. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Chair and committee member. This is Catherine Ivanov, I-V-A-N-O Frank Frank. It is said that why do we Americans, and I consider myself American, even though I obviously, you can hear my accent, immigrated not too long ago. Why do we have to change things to help, not to help, but people have to assimilate to the American culture. It takes years to become a citizen. It takes many years to become a citizen and to be able to vote. People should learn the language enough to be able to vote at that point. If they don't, then they're not here for the right reasons. They don't want to assimilate. If they don't want to assimilate, they shouldn't be coming here. I know it sounds harsh, and I should find better words to say the same thing, but it is upsetting to me. I came here, I worked hard to get a citizenship, I learned the language, and now my taxpayer money that is so hard earned, you're going to take my money to spend it frivolously. There are a bunch of nonprofits that are helping. Those nonprofits are also getting paid by our taxpayers' money. There hasn't been a problem for people that cannot vote. I haven't heard it. Everybody's telling everybody, even people that don't speak English, their family is telling them what to do and how to vote. There is no point of us spending millions of dollars extra on top of everything else. And you're trying to raise our taxes in this very session. So please be mindful on how we spend our money. Thank you so much. I know you're trying your best. The intent is very good. And I believe we already have provisions to help the disabled people. So if we don't, I agree with the disabled part of the bill. However, we shouldn't be spending our money willy-nilly. People should assimilate. Thank you. Have a lovely day.
Thank you, Chair. There are no more callers wishing to testify in opposition to AB 367 at this time.
Thank you, Broadcasting. Anyone who's neutral on the bill and wishes to be heard, either in Carson City or down in Southern Nevada? I'm not seeing anyone come forward in person. Broadcasting, anyone on the phone lines in the neutral position and wishes to be heard?
If you'd like to testify in neutral for AB 367, please press *9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers wishing to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you very much. With that, to our presenters, any closing comments anyone would like to make? No? All right. Well, thank you so much for presenting the bill. With that, we will close the hearing on Assembly Bill 367. And we have one item on our agenda before we go to public comment, members. We do have a bill draft request, and this is regarding a potential Senate concurrent resolution. I'll pass out copies. And this has to do with recognizing antimicrobial resistance as a public health crisis and encouraging certain actions be taken in response. A vote to support introduction of the bill draft request does not mean that you're supporting the substance of the Senate concurrent resolution. It just simply would mean that you're voting for us to be able to move forward and let this become an SCR, a Senate concurrent resolution. If there's any questions about the resolution, I'm happy to answer them, members. Otherwise, I would accept a motion to introduce BDR R-1234.
Motion to introduce.
I have a motion from Senator Krasner. Is there a second? Second. I have a second. I think that was a close tie. A second from Senator Steinbeck. I think Senator Steinbeck may have been a little faster than you, Vice Chair Daley, on that one. Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any discussion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Madam Secretary, please note that it did pass with 4 in favor, and Majority Leader Canizaro excused. And thank you, members. With that, our last item on the agenda is public comment. If there's anyone who wishes to make public comment, either here in Carson City or down at the Southern Nevada Hearing Room, please come forward. I'm not seeing anyone come forward. So broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines who wishes to make public comment? We are allotting 2 minutes per person for public comment.
If you'd like to provide public comment, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Thank you. This is Ellen Gifford. I'll try to be brief. I know it's long. We're grateful for the opportunity to provide testimony at Nevada's legislative sessions. We do know Nevada's legislators put hard work and many hours into the developing and legislating proposed bills, and we're grateful for what you all do as well. Please know that we try to satisfactorily meet all the requirements to participate in this important process, and we try to present meaningful information and opinions that could be helpful to you. We would respectfully like to share 2 things with you that has hindered our participation recently. We've been caught off guard at the last minute lately with new information and amendments that have an impact on what we've prepared to share with you. If there were an appropriate deadline for such items, we would be able to review them ahead of the session. In addition, please know that when both the Senate and the Assembly committees addressing the same topic, i.e. legislative operations and elections, meet at the same time on the same day, we'd be so grateful if we could have a choice, or excuse me, if we didn't have to make a choice between the sessions. It would be so beneficial if we could attend both of them. We'd be grateful for any solutions you can provide that will remedy these situations, and we wish you a very pleasant evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are no other callers wishing to testify and provide public comment at this time.
Thank you very much. I want to thank our staff for this marathon meeting. We've covered a lot of bills today. I want to thank our committee members, and I want to thank our sign language interpreters for being here. That was really great that we were able to have that sign language interpretation continuous throughout our hearing. So appreciate that. With that, before I adjourn, I just want to let members know we are probably going to have definitely going to have one more meeting before the deadline on Friday. There's a chance we may have a Friday meeting as well. We'll try to give everyone as much notice as we can, but things are kind of moving quickly and a lot of moving parts. So please, I have to ask everybody to watch their phones and their emails, and we'll try to give everyone as much notice as we can. Thank you all. That we are adjourned.